Screen dark.
We are broadcasting live.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is the Town of Council meeting for the Town of Mono, held on Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. This meeting is being conducted both in chambers and by means of electronic participation, as permitted by Section 238, subsection 3.1 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, and the Town of Mono Procedural Bylaw 2020-42. Residents can join this meeting online or view it afterwards on our website. We have a quorum, and I see Councillor Capes has joined us electronically. We don't have an active screen here, but we'll do our best to look up at the screen. Location of emergency exits are in the rear of the council chamber if needed. Disclosure of pecuniary interest can be made at this point or at any point in the course of the meeting, followed up in writing with the clerk. And I'll begin with the land acknowledgement. We would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that the Town of Mono resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Teotante, Attawaddaron, Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe peoples. We also acknowledge that the Town of Mono resides within the treaty lands named under Treaty 18, the Nottawasaga Purchase of 1818. These traditional territories upon which we live and learn are steeped in rich Indigenous history and traditions. It is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. I have a motion that Council approves the agenda of session 1025 as circulated. Do I have a mover? Councillor Manktelow moves. Councillor Davey seconds. Any opposed? Motion is carried. I have a motion that Council approves the minutes of session 9-2025 as circulated. Councillor or Deputy Mayor moves that motion, seconded by Councillor Manktelow. Any opposed? And that motion is carried. We have two proclamations today. One is for National Indigenous Peoples Day, whereas in June 2009, there was a declared National Indigenous History Month by the passing of a unanimous motion in the House of Commons, and whereas recognizing National Indigenous History Month is an opportunity for citizens to learn more about the history of Indigenous peoples in Canada, the First Peoples of Canada, and whereas in cooperation with Indigenous peoples national organizations, the Government of Canada designated June 21st as National Indigenous Peoples Day, and whereas June 21st was chosen because it corresponds to the summer solstice, the longest day of the year, and for generations many Indigenous peoples groups have celebrated their culture and heritage at this time of year, and whereas the National Indigenous Peoples Day is an opportunity to become better acquainted with the cultural diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples, and to discover the unique accomplishments of Indigenous peoples. Therefore, on behalf of Council, I am proclaiming June 2025 as National Indigenous History Month and June 21st, 2025 as National Indigenous Peoples Day in the Town of Mono, and encourage all residents to take this opportunity to celebrate and recognize the contributions of the Indigenous peoples to our community, and that's dated today's date. I have a declaration for Operation Smile Canada. Whereas Operation Smile Canada is a global medical charity providing free, life-changing surgeries and medical care to children born with cleft conditions around the world, and whereas every 3 minutes a child is born with a cleft condition, and lack of access to safe, efficient surgery means that easily treatable conditions like cleft lip and cleft palate can be fatal. and whereas Operation Smile Canada believes every child born with a cleft condition deserves exceptional surgical care, and whereas Operation Smile Canada's celebration of the longest days of the year campaign will unite Canadians from coast to coast as they raise awareness and funds to support this important cause. And whereas the citizens of Mono are encouraged to get involved today and make somebody smile for as little as $240, you can help a child smile and change their life with free, safe cleft surgery and comprehensive care. On behalf of Council, I'm proclaiming June 2025 as Celebrate the Longest Days of the Year in the town of Mono in support of Operation Smile Canada. That brings us to question period.
Andrew, was there any questions submitted online prior to the meeting?
Yes, there are 3 questions. The first question from Anthony Hossein is, election signs are still visible across Mono. Anything being done with having these removed promptly?
That's from the federal election, not the last municipal election. That is true. I've seen and know of at least 2 locations. Our clerk, who's responsible for bylaw enforcement, is not with us today, but when he gets back, I'll speak to him about that. And if any of us know locations, maybe we can let him know where they are. It's very regrettable, and I can remember in Mississauga and Brampton, in the wake of any election down there, there were always hundreds of charges against the candidates for leaving their signs up and not attending to them. Fortunately, I'm thinking here there's a handful of signs. Next question.
From the same asker, he says, movie sets are becoming more frequent in Mono and North End. What type of communication is sent out to the locals to be cautious with excess vehicles and movie equipment slowing down traffic?
I don't know. Do we have a protocol for movie work activity in the town?
Thank you. We do have a protocol. Public Works receives filming applications from time to time. We haven't received one, I believe, in 3 years. I'm not familiar with any current filming that's going on in Mono, but we do have protocol, and we're very specific with our conditions, set conditions, and then specific based on the location and the timing of those filming applications, projects.
Councillor Capes?
No.
Thank you. I do know there is some filming going on in Rosemont, at the general store and in the Globe restaurant. So, but it's not every week, not every day. It's been infrequent. I think we've seen them there twice, but just recently.
Matt?
Would that be on Highway 89, MTO Road Lane, Councillor Capes?
Yes, it is. Yes, okay. Matt, that's correct.
Yeah, so the MTO would be responsible for issuing the road occupancy or the filming permit to occupy the ministry highway.
Right.
Okay. So I think if anyone sees anything that is concerning from the standpoint of traffic safety, they should contact either the OPP or our Works Department.
And the third question, there's been a few residents that are unsuccessful with a note to the mayor or council members and would like to meet one-on-one, not with all of council. What is the protocol behind this request?
Well,
I don't know anything about this.
I think, speaking for myself, I try to get back to people in writing by way of email. If somebody wants a meeting with me, I always ask, okay, what's the topic so I can prepare? And is it something that we can do over the phone or do by way of email as opposed to in person? I don't know, the rest of you can speak for yourselves. The one question that has arisen in the last week is a drop-in opportunity for people to come and speak with us on a semi-regular basis. And unfortunately, the Municipal Act says that the minute there's 3 of us in the same location, it can be construed as a council meeting. And I presume that's even including shopping at Zayre's together. So there are limitations on making ourselves available in numbers of 3 or more. But does anyone want to address this and what your practices are?
Thanks for the question, Anthony. It's in my experience, it's very simple. If the person wants to meet with me, I meet with them either at their place or mine, usually at their place because it often involves something local. And you just need to contact them through their email address, which is on the town's website.
Elaine?
I guess I would like to know who has made requests there. Have been a few residents that are unsuccessful with a note to the mayor or council members. I have seen no note asking about this. Maybe it's not about this. I'm not sure what that means. They would like to meet one-on-one. What is the protocol, like, behind this request? Like, I'm not entirely sure what this question means.
Well, and the other thing is some of us engage on Mr. Hussein's favorite electronic media, that being Facebook. And when people address me directly on Facebook, I usually try and respond to them either in the open or by way of a private message. Fred, did you know?
Well, I know I respond to every email that I get and every phone call I get,
Go ahead.
but I've never had this one-on-one meeting request, so I don't understand the question.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
My response would be similar to Councillor Manklow's. If someone wants to meet with me, I'm game.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just chime in that I like Elaine, I mean, if ever I get a phone call or if I get an email, I respond. So I'm not sure. It may just be that they really want to talk to the mayor and but I think we all are, and I think that the residents need to know that we're not meeting all of the time, and this is about the 3rd time that I've said this in one of these meetings, that there isn't a bunch of discussion that happens on any topics ever except right here with all of us. And so it's an interesting way of, if a resident has a problem, and they send a email to all of council, you're not going to get all of council responding, or you shouldn't get all of council responding to your reply all things, because whether it's at the coffee shop, Zayre's, as you say, or whether it's by a group email, that would be constituted as or considered potentially as a meeting, and we can't do that.
Yeah.
So you get people, each of us individually. I don't respond to reply all. I respond to residents when something comes in. So I'm not sure who. So maybe we should have, I know that it's terrific to have a community spokesperson, Mr. Hussein, but perhaps it would be nice if the actual residents themselves came forward with the questions.
And quite frankly, make public their complaint if we don't get back to them or if we refuse to meet. I do meet with people, but I try and triage the requests as they come in. And most of the time, they can be dealt with over the phone. They can be dealt with by way of email. I prefer email to the extent that it's a record. It's creation of a record. But I do meet with people as required and as insisted upon. Okay. 3 questions?
Correct. Thanks, Andrew.
Do we have any questions from the gallery? Come on forward. Either one I think will work. Okay.
Thank you, council and staff, for having me. My name's Emerson Pendleton, 20 Side Road, Mono. I just have a couple questions. I'll try to keep them quick. I watched the meeting last time on video online, and it was eye-opening. You guys have a lot to deal with on your plate, and it can be kind of scary. So I understand that there's a lot on your plate to deal with, but I'll try to keep it quick. When I was here at the town hall meeting a month or so ago, I asked about an impact map for the discharge of firearms bylaw, and your worship, I think you were open to having a map drafted just to see what areas would be affected. I was just wondering if there's been any update on that.
I'm going to have to speak to the clerk, but I think that's something that we should have in front of us when we actually talk about the proposed bylaw.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just looking for an update because, say on my property, I have up to 7 or 8 different neighbors that could potentially impact my areas that I could maybe discharge a firearm. So just a question that way. And as I touched on, I know you guys have some high-level, detailed issues to deal with. Arsenic in the water was a eye-opener for me last week. So I know I want to respect your time and all that. However, I do see, and from some of the questions, that there is a community engagement disconnection. 25% voter turnout is not a great thing in my mind, and I'm not blaming any of you. I respect your positions and the fact that you're there. I wish more people would be more involved. They don't have the answers. However, with that, there can be a problem with accountability, right? People aren't aware of the issues, and I just find the Ds of avoiding accountability are in effect. Deny, deflect, defer, diffuse. Anyways, Mr. Mayor, I want to ask you personally, what does it take you to get you to reach out to someone that's passionate about an issue? When I was at the town hall meeting, there's a gentleman in front of me that was a new resident that asked about roads being paved. You gave him your card, asked him to reach out. I've been to multiple meetings. I'm very passionate about some things. I'm trying to save my powder and do things in the right way, but I've had no response. I can email each councillor individually if that's what you would wish, but I would like there to be some two-way participation in something that's going to affect me a lot, potentially with this bylaw. So that's just my question for now. Thank you.
Well, I did give out my card to a number of people.
Okay.
I don't believe I've heard back from anyone. I'm in the telephone book. I'm also on the website. I think I'm fairly accessible. I've, in situations where, such as the noise bylaw or the discharge of firearms bylaw, I've tried to indicate that the big debate on that is going to occur in a few council meetings from now. So you know, maybe save your powder, I think was the expression I used the last time. And you know, Mono, I'm very proud of the fact that Mono has been a leader in terms of trying to get engagement, trying to increase voter turnout. We were a pioneer in terms of telephone voting back in the late 1990s. We were and still are a pioneer in terms of online voting, which makes it easy for somebody to participate. We've held town hall meetings since the 1990s, and I think they're only getting better in the sense that they're providing for more time for citizens to get up and engage with us. The website, I think, is the best it's been. There's obviously improvements that can be created. We've also engaged on specific topics in terms of questionnaires that have been put out to the public, and we've been mindful of the results as they come in, but not necessarily totally dictated by by a questionnaire per se. At the end of the day, we've got to make a decision. So I'm proud of that. Occasionally I meet somebody who basically says, you're not doing anything, okay? I'm not saying that you're implying that at all. I know you're not. But, you know, in a case like that, there is it's a two-way street. We do everything we can And then we hope that people will try to take the advantage of all of the opportunities to engage with us, and we will create as many as we can. But that doesn't always happen. We have a newsletter that goes out, both in print versions and electronically. And we have something called Council Highlights, which is, again, a summary of the results of council meetings. And as well, we have a subscription service that people can sign up for. And I think we've got well in excess now of 500 people, but we're a municipality of 9,000, so we have a little ways to go there. Anyone want to comment?
Yeah, thanks very much for your, Emerson, for your question. And all the things that the mayor said that we've been doing is an ongoing, we need to, but just because we're doing it, when the bottom line there with the newsletter, to know that the subscription's only 500-ish people, it must be more now. We put some, must be more, but I don't think so. It's still, there's still thousands of us, and as you say, the election turnout. I mean, and we couldn't talk about pioneering. We could not make it easier to vote here. You get a whole 2-week window. You do it from your phone, and if you're uncomfortable with that, you come in on the day, and it's still electronic on the phone, right? So, what is it that you would like when you say the two-way and that you have come here? This is important that you're coming, and important that you've given us your input on the one topic that's interesting to you. But what was it that you were hoping to get back that you haven't yet? Because we're in a process that takes time.
Well, I think kind of like my calculus teacher said, or professor said in university, we're maybe talking to the empty seats a bit here. You got to come and show up to have some skin in the game, and I've done that. I just don't feel there's been any reception. The only real introduction I had was with the CAO, Mr. Dunmore, and I don't know. I just like to be able to sink my teeth into something and have an impact, not just having a select group of people that have input, right? Arsenic in the water, I don't have any input on. I can't really do that. But when it deals with something on my property that I do legally, it affects me a lot. And I don't know the answers to the questions I have, but I would like to see, again, not just you, but just the public, everybody be more involved and have that opportunity. And I just don't think it's there. And I do think there's a lot of deflection and denying, diffusing of the situations.
On the part of councillors?
Public?
Yes, like in the formation of the discharge of firearms bylaw, it's mentioned that it's not affecting firearm owners' rights. Well, it is, and we are legal users. We follow the laws. There aren't issues. There aren't any statistics backing this up. We're having this bylaw rammed down our throats. I'd like to see objective statistics.
I'm going to interrupt you there.
Yes.
We haven't passed a bylaw yet, okay?
Yes, sorry.
We
I am
haven't
mistaken.
had a debate about the survey results, and there's certain elements of the survey that cause me concern personally.
Okay.
So I think it's unfair to presume an outcome when it's far from certain that we're going to pass a bylaw, or if we do, what format it's going to be in.
I agree with that. I apologize for that. Yeah.
You're clearly passionate about it,
Sorry.
and we're hearing that. Now that you've been watching a little bit, did you get an opportunity to watch the discussion that happened around the noise bylaw?
I apologize. I was watching last week up until the King's
Right.
proclamation,
No, never mind. No,
and then I fell asleep. No,
Which is-
I just haven't had time to follow up on that, and I didn't watch your discussion last week, so I'm ignorant on that.
and there's no rush for you. There's no rush for you
Okay.
to do it. But it's just an example, I
Yes.
think, of how there is a document that is put forward because you have to have a starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Documents put forward, we get some feedback. There's then a survey, we get a lot of feedback, and then we've had a discussion about it, and we've gone away again. And the number of weeks and months that this all takes the hope is, in the end, that we will have a compromise. And so that would be a good model for you to have a look at of that there really is give and take and interaction on both sides.
Certainly.
But it is sporadic. We don't, it's terrific, the number of people we have in the audience today, but it's sporadic, the input, right? But no, nothing's rammed. Nothing is rammed.
I sometimes use I don't pick the best words sometimes, sorry for that.
That's okay. Elaine?
Thank you, Your Worship. And Emerson, thank you, because I know you do come out regularly, and that's appreciated. It's, even if I'm on screen, it's nice to see people who are there in the council gallery, so thank you. And I guess, you know, what I will say is make the plea that I'm sure you have, but maybe everybody you know you can encourage to complete the surveys when we do them, because we are desperately working at getting input from residents. And so the survey tool has become something that we've you know, embraced so that we can get as much input as we can, and then that comes back to us in a report from staff, and it's very helpful when we sit then to deliberate. So if I can make the plea for you with your influence to encourage as many people as you know and come in contact with actually participating in those surveys. But thank you.
Thank you. And Emerson, the process that you're engaged in now dates back to the 1990s, and we were the very first municipality in Dufferin and one of the first, probably in the province, to actually have a question period. And I'm responsible for that. And I've heard experts in municipal affairs say that you know, you can't have a question period because you can't control what people are going to say. They could start attacking staff, they could start attacking you. You know, you don't have a handle on it. And my response is, listen, I don't need a handle on it because we have a very respectful, wonderfully well-informed constituency here that we're dealing with, and they're very fair. We were the first municipality, apart from Orangeville, to introduce televised council meetings. And I'm very proud of that because that gives anyone the opportunity to not only view us online, but to actually catch up and go back if they have the stomach to watch meeting after meeting after meeting. And some people do, and they appreciate it. So thank you.
I'm thankful for all that, and I'm thankful for all your work. So I'll leave it at that for now, and I hope to carry on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Anyone else in the gallery? Is there anyone online? Oh, Elaine?
Thank you, and Your Worship, just to add to your point, when I took the municipal council training from the experts, they were telling everybody you should not hold any public input question period within your agenda, because people are here to observe, they are not here to participate. And I said, no, we have a public question period, and I support that. And so I was the only one in the room that could say that we did that. So to your point.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So we have a delegation today of Rosemont District Fire Department Chief Blacklaws. If you'd come forward, Chief. Welcome.
So I believe you have my
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yes, that's great.
but it's red. Is it red? Okay, good.
I cannot hear.
We're just talking about the microphone, Elaine.
There we go.
Just getting this sorted out, thanks. So first of all, thank you, Mayor Kroman and Council, for inviting me here. It's my pleasure to come in and present the 2024 year-end report from the Rosemont District Fire Department. It's a short report, so it won't take very long. So if we want to get going,
Go
okay.
ahead.
So first page, of course, cover page. picture of our brand-new tanker that we received last year. Yep, beauty. And then next page, our mission statement, which I believe most of you probably be familiar with. I've been doing these reports for 20 years or so, and I believe the mission statement came out with the first one, or very close to it. And then on the next page would be my letter to the fire boards stating what we've been doing and where we're heading. And basically it starts out in January. We took on 2 new recruits, who are completed their training and are very active members of the department now. Again, the new tanker in 2023, delivered in 2024, ordered in 23, year and a half to build, but that's pretty normal for fire trucks these days. In 2024, we applied and received a community emergency preparedness grant. The focus of our grant application was emergency preparedness for wildfires. We see that as a current and only get worse type of exposure that we're going to have in this area. Mono, Momer, and Agtos, as we provide service to all 3. So we use that money to supplement our wildland fire capabilities. The biggest purchase of which was a new drone that we use for high-level observations of a fire scene. It's also equipped with thermal imaging, so it can be used for search and rescue at night or at any time, really. Zoom lenses and everything that we can sort of pick up objects at a distance. So we're sort of still learning with it. It's a pretty intense piece of equipment to utilize fully, and we are working at getting better at it. We have 3 trained pilots right now, and we're working on a few more. This drone is of a size that you have to be certified to the advanced level to fly it. So it's a little bit costly to get our firefighters trained, but we're working on it. Further down, you can see our public education continues to be a major initiative with us. And through the distribution of our annual fire safety calendar, we hand deliver it to every resident in our coverage area. And that's our primary focus on getting the fire safety message out to the community. We also hold open houses throughout the year, and that's another way of reaching out. The Rosemont District Firefighters Association is a major contributor that raises money on our behalf. Typically, we'll raise about $10,000 to $12,000 a year through our calendar. We hand out the calendar for free, but if you want to make a donation, we are able to provide a tax receipt for that. So it continues to be very profitable for us. And again, it's a means of getting the message out to the public about fire safety and whatever else. And so that's it for my letter. And then the next letter was from our training officer. I get him to do one every year just to bring us up to date on where we are with training. The biggest thing we did in 2024 was we partnered with the Ministry of Natural Resources and delivered a SP 103 course, which is a wildland firefighting course to all of our firefighters. Several years ago, we did a wildland tactics course for all of our firefighters, but which is more the tactics level as far as like in command and control of the scene. Now, of everybody that did it at that time, there's only 3 or 4 of us left, so we're starting in the next cycle of doing that training for some of our officers. So we're trying to stay ahead of the curve on the wildlands end of things, as well as everyday firefighting, auto extrication, medical responses, and everything like that. Also, we received a technology grant in 2024, which through the, who was it through again? Oh, the Fire Marshal's Public Safety Council, and we bought a couple of laptops to help with our online training of our firefighters. There's another grant we got in 2024 that I forgot to mention. Well, that was the fire protection grant. We got $8,200, and that was the focus of that was cancer prevention and firefighters. So with that money, we purchased a bunker gear drying rack that we have the machine to wash the gear, to remove the carcinogens out of the gear, but now this dryer that we bought gets the gear back in service quicker. So the firefighters are more likely to keep their gear clean, knowing that they're going to get it back in a more rapid manner. I'm sure most of you had a chance to read through my letter and the training officer's letter. If there's any questions that I skimmed over, just feel free to ask at any point.
Maybe complete, or does council want to jump in at this point?
So can complete the report and
Yeah.
then come, absolutely.
Yeah.
So then on the next page, we have our organizational chart. Of course, the Rosemont District Fire Board at the top, and then myself and Deputy Chief, Training Officer Dan Hawkins, and then we have our 4 platoons with a captain on each platoon and firefighters and a couple of lieutenants spread out. We have some lieutenant vacancies at the present time. We're just sort of waiting for some up-and-comers to come into the position where we can promote them into those spots. So it's a learning position, so we're not that desperate to have them filled. It's the opportunity for up-and-comers to get their hands into a little bit of the scene management and tactics level leadership. And then the first chart is the 5 years comparison of response by the town and township. So if you look, 2024 is at the very right. Mono, you'll see, is blue and represented roughly 20% of our call volume, which is right in line with 20% of the residential occupancies as well. So it's falling in line. Momer, of course, is our biggest chunk and our busiest, with Toss being the smallest. But those numbers all break down according to the cost sharing as well. It's almost right on line with everything, so it's pretty much the way it is. In the next page, so in the next few charts, we're going to see broke down by types of calls, and this is just an explanation of what those calls are. Again, we got motor vehicle. We broke it down into like 4: motor vehicle collisions, medical responses, fires, and then other, which include hydro wires down, search and rescue, that type of thing. And here we are, 5-year trend by nature of response. So if we're going to look at 2024, you'll see that roughly 19% of our calls. I know it says 20, but it's actual. The blue column on the right is it's 20 calls out of the 106, so it works out to a 19%. Yellow being medical, again, our biggest volume of calls, and that's roughly 43%. And then fires making up 25% approximately. And then other at 13. It stays the same throughout the, it fluctuates a little bit. 2022, you can see where fires was our biggest source of calls. I'd have to look back and see why. That was probably a lot of mutual aid calls, I'm guessing. Around that time, that was around COVID, and we had our call volume sort of spiked around COVID. I think it was mainly because people are home, working around the house, doing stuff, burning debris in the yard, stuff like that. So we had a lot of grass fires, a lot of mutual aid calls that year. Next one is comparison response by type and township. So this just breaks down by the township, the nature of calls in each. So if we look at Mono on the left, again, medicals is the primary one, followed by MVCs, motor vehicle collisions, and then fires. Oh no, other is a little bit ahead there, so I'd have to delve deep to see what those other calls were. Probably wires down, that sort of thing. The next chart is Township of Momer. We can probably just skip over that. I break these down into each township, and then the town of Mono is the next one. And that breaks down the types of responses into Mono based on percentage-wise. So 52% medical, 24% MVC, 14% other, and I'm sorry, other is 14% other, and then medical MVCs, fires were 10%. And then the next one is edge toss, so again, we can probably skip over that. And then the last chart is just how these numbers represent logged hours. So every hour that a firefighter puts into doing something, it's recorded on our software management system. End of the year, I draw out all those numbers, and this sort of breaks down where those hours are spent. So you can see by the chart, the majority of our time is spent training, and that's normal for most volunteer fire departments. Next biggest would be emergency response. The red is emergency response, so that's fires, MVCs, medicals, everything we run out the door to respond to. And then in the sort of the gray there is haul duty. That's time spent maintaining the equipment, checking everything, make sure it's working properly, and we do a little bit of training on those days as well. And then the green would be the non-incident activities. So that's fire prevention, public education, meetings, anything else that doesn't fall under the other three categories. And then I don't know if you have the run stats. I don't think I was able to add that to the. So included in the report was just response times, and in this chart, basically shows times to get to the call, the nature of the call, how many firefighters showed up or were available, and that's about it. So if we just at the end, you can see our average response time once we remove mutual aid calls. Mutual aid calls are usually in areas in neighboring municipalities that take us longer to get to just because of the distance. So our typical time throughout the year, from the time we get the call till we get there, was 11 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, if we remove the mutual aid calls, because again, they're outside our response area, we drop it down to 10 minutes and 27 seconds, which for a volunteer fire department, to get the tones, get to the hull, get on the truck, get out the door, and get there, it's pretty reasonable. Total time spent on call, on average, 2024, was just under 1 hour and 10 minutes. That's average. So a lot of short calls and a lot of some longer calls too. I think the longest one that year was probably about 6 or 7 hours, but the average works out to about 1 hour and 10 minutes. And we have an average of just under 10 firefighters show up per call. So basically, that's pretty much my report. Very quick. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to.
Okay. I see Fred first, and then Ralph.
Yeah, I have 4 or 5 questions, but I'm not sure the mayor will let me go on that
Okay.
long. As you can probably guess, the issue of governance for firefighting in Dufferin County is top of mind for some of us, and I'm not going to ask you your opinion on that subject because that would be unfair. We'll have to grapple with it, but there are some things that arise on this governance issue that I'm curious about. About a year or so ago, Angela Toss was thinking of leaving your fire board.
Right.
And what I want to know is this, and I'm not sure I understand. If they left, and it's died down now, but it may come up again, you still would be providing services to those homes that are near the town line. Would you be doing it on the basis of mutual aid, in which case there'd be no revenue from that service, or would you be charging Toss for the calls?
So if AGTOS was to take over that area in AGTOS that we currently provide coverage to and made it their response area, the only time they would call us if it was a fire and they needed mutual aid, and there is no fee for mutual aid. So
they could leave the
Yeah.
fire board and still get your trucks to
Right.
come for mutual aid,
Right.
and
Right.
they wouldn't pay a cent for it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That concerns me. I know it's died down now, but it does concern me.
Sorry,
The other
Deputy Mayor Nix, this
Yes.
is a good question for what we're dealing with Shelburne, right? So medical, Mike, the 911 routing would identify the zone by address and reach out to Angela Toss for the I forget the street names in Rosemont, but Jameson, for say Jameson Ave. So even though you're 3 minutes, 4 minutes,
Well, we're 1.5 kilometers, so.
even though you're 1.5 kilometers, in Everett, the Everett station would be 10,
15, 10.
10, you would, that would get diverted to Adula.
This is a good question.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor next. I just want
Okay, I'm used to being cut
I
off.
had a,
I just want to check with the mayor. Well, first of all, did the chief answer your question?
he did.
Can I continue, because I have sort of a related question, your worship.
Go ahead, go ahead.
In the event there was some change in governance in Dufferin County about how we do the fire boards, and you've probably been aware of some of the suggestions, a North Dufferin Fire Board, Shelburne taking over the fire, all this stuff. Do you have the latitude, okay, you have, I have the map somewhere on the laptop, the service areas. One person suggested to me that if Shelburne were to take over the fire department, they could get Rosemont to expand its service area. Now, I know that is increased time of response, and I assume those lines were drawn based on time of response. But is that a feasible suggestion, or was this person who made that suggestion just blowing smoke?
Anything's feasible. When the line was drawn, the Rosemont Fire Station was south of Rosemont on the town line, and we've since moved. In 2001, they moved to the 7th. So that line going to the west of our coverage area was never changed. The one going to the east from Madge Toss, it was moved one concession, but on the other side, it wasn't moved. There was an attempt to do that by Chief McAwee years ago. It was met with considerable opposition from the Shelburne chief at the time, and it was dropped. It's up to the fire board and the municipality to decide where they want the line to be.
So given that you did move the fire hall over
Yeah.
to Highway 89 over,
Right.
it would be feasible for both Mulmer and Mono. You could move your service area one concession to the west.
It would be feasible, yes.
Okay.
That's, again, it's a decision that,
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just wanted to know if it was feasible. I have more questions, your worship, but in fairness.
I'm going to
I-
defer,
yeah.
to Ralph, and then see if anyone else, and then we'll get back to you.
Thanks for your presentation. It's reassuring to know that the Rosemont Fire Department is taking care of the northeast end of Toronto. I was interested in your comment about wildland fires. I'm presuming that's including forest fires.
Yep.
And in my current course of study, we're studying forest fires. And it's apparent to me that this is one of the things that's going to be increasing in our future. And it's particularly a problem with conifers.
right.
And we've had a practice here of reforesting with red pine most recently, and in the long run, this may have its disadvantages. But I'm very encouraged that you're considering this, because a wildfire in a forest is a different matter. And I've usually thought of you as being charged with medical issues, motor vehicle accidents, and houses. But we're adding to that now to another big dimension, and I'm encouraged to hear that you're involved.
I'm sorry, the last part?
Pardon? I said I'm encouraged to hear that you're involved.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I moved away from the mic.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, wouldn't you always respond? Did you've always, I mean, now you've got extra training and the necessary equipment, but if somebody was having a grass fire, it was always the fire department who.
Right, right.
about forest now, particularly. He's talking about wildlands, and it includes forests and.
Well, I know, but fire departments, who else would you have come to a forest fire except for the fire department?
Oh, no, we always did respond to it. It's just that we're preparing ourselves more because they're getting bigger and more drastic.
More
and-
common, right?
and more common with the weather, and yes. So we're trying to stay ahead of it, much as we can.
To Ralph's point, I've been trying to raise the alarm now for years about fire protection in the provincial lands within the town of Mono. And in particular, what is the fire plan for, say, Mono Cliffs Park or the Hockley Reserve? I've put that question to Parks Ontario people, and incredibly, they say, well, you've got local fire departments and they have mutual aid agreements. They'll take care of it. And I'm thinking, okay, many parts of Mono Cliffs, as an example, and I live on the edge of Mono Cliffs, would be completely inaccessible to, virtually everything but a water bomber. Do you have any thoughts about the ministry's position on firefighting within their properties?
Well, through joint training with the MNR, the program that we adopted, we have become aware that teams from the MNR are available to us. It's just a matter of time for them getting here. Initially, we're going to get supervisory staff that will come and guide us and help us with those big decisions. But as far as actual fire attack teams from the ministry, it will take some time to get here. It is going to fall upon municipal fire departments to be the initial responders and do everything we can to contain it, and
But in a scenario where a fire develops, who makes the call to the province? Is it yourself? Is it me? Is it a
Well,
council resolution, or how does it work?
Well, that's interesting, because early on, we'd probably make a call just to make sure we got somebody coming to help us, to advise at least. And I believe they come out of Haliburton, so they'd be a couple hours getting here. But I think it might be and again, I might be speaking out of line, but it might be a declared emergency before you get much from the province itself. I'm not really sure, but we'd have to look into that a little bit.
I'm
But I
sufficiently scared of this issue that I
Yeah.
would declare an emergency very
Yeah.
quickly.
Well, and I think that's where the advisory staff from the MNR would really come in handy. Okay, where do we go from here? Who can we contact? And what's our best course presently?
I'm going to go back to Fred now.
Yeah, another tough question.
Sure.
At the Shelburne District Fire Board, when we talk about this governance issue, one of the claims made by some people sometimes is, well, if we did this in terms of governance, like the North Dufferin Fire Board or whatever it's called, or originally Melanchthon's position, which is to have a county-wide fire service, they make the argument that there'd be some economies of scale in purchasing equipment and other things. And that debate goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I would like to know your opinion on whether or not, now I know when you get to something like a pumper truck, they tend to be so specialized for what you need in your department that there's probably little chance that you'd be buying the same truck that Orangeville or Shelburne would, but on other equipment like bunker gear, are there any places where Rosemont, Shelburne, Orangeville, Melanchthon, Mulmer, could we do joint purchases that would reduce our costs? What's your opinion on that?
Yep. So a few years ago, we set up a joint purchase for bunker gear with Edge Toss, because at one time we were sort of more closely connected to them when Chief McIsaac was over there. And we maintained that under Chief Schneider. Myself and him, we maintained that for, 10 years or so. And then now that things are changing a bit, when Chief Schneider went to Shelburne, we were trying to set it up, because there's different brands of gear. So he switched Shelburne's brand of gear and spec to match ours. Excuse me. So the idea was, going forward, we could group purchases together. Same thing we're doing in Natchitoches, but bring it over to Dufferin County. Right now, Shelburne and Rosemont are the same gear. Honeywood, or Mulmer, Melanchthon, and Orangeville are the same. Grand Valley, I'm not sure what they use. So to try and get them out of, let's say, Globe Gear, which is another manufacturer, into Starfield, which we use, would be it's kind of difficult. I'm certainly willing to look at changing our specs as long as we maintain the same basic spec. Each manufacturer can do it. It's just a matter of pricing. We do save a little bit by the bigger volume. Might get a couple $100 off each set. It's not huge because we're not buying a lot, but there is some savings. Fire hose might be another place, but you'd have to sort of agree on the same spec. Some departments, like the Cadillac fire hose, we're more like the Chevy version. It does the job and serves us well. But it's whatever. Yeah, there is some, but it's not going to be huge. Fire trucks, you're not going to save a lot on. There's such demand now, they're naming their price. You're pretty well stuck paying whatever they want to charge you. And we've sort of switched to, like the truck we just showed there, it's on a commercially available chassis. That's the cheapest way to do it. There are some departments that won't buy a commercial chassis. They want to stick with custom. So, and that adds a lot of money to the cost. It puts it beyond our reach. So that's why we're sort of sticking with the custom.
Which department?
Orangeville, Shelburne, they're sticking with,
Melinda, we should remember that,
yeah.
Melinda.
Grand Valley they bought a tanker after us, and it was on a custom chassis, and it was a couple $100,000 more, so it makes a huge difference, but they have their reasons for it. They have their reasons. They believe the cabs are safer for firefighters. I can't argue that. Rollover protection is probably better, stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, we just can't afford that approach. So we have one custom cab chassis fire truck, and we bought it at a really good rate, which made it affordable for us. So everything else is a commercially available chassis. So
Elaine?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to continue with that question about, economies of scale, that doesn't always happen. And I think bigger is not always better. I worked in the banking industry. We were consolidating and, unconsolidating every other year. Never saved any money. Anyway, we do, though, have a situation where in some of our fire departments, they purchase aerial trucks. We will never need an aerial truck in Mona, never saying never, but, the need for an aerial truck for Rosemont District Fire Board doesn't exist. But guess what? We don't need the aerial equipment, but we're paying for the aerial equipment because it serves Shelburne and Orangeville.
Before you answer, I would respectfully disagree with my fellow councillor in her statement.
okay. No, every fire department's different. You don't know the future. It may come today that we may need more expensive vehicles, but currently we're doing what we can do and trying to toe the line financially.
Melinda, do you have any questions, comments?
No, thank you so much for coming. Because I sit on the board with Elaine on Rosemont, I already knew all the information, so I don't have any questions. I just am really thankful that you're here to share with our residents, because I certainly didn't know. You buy a house and you just kind of assume the fire department's going to come, and when you're in Mono, we've got 4 departments. So this is great. Thank you very much for presenting your report.
If there's no further questions, as I look in one direction.
Just one small.
Yeah, go ahead.
At the county level, and John will remember this, we were given a overview of the dispatch system that our ambulances use.
Yep, right.
And it's going to change this
Yes.
December. Now, I can't give the details, but the nice thing about it was it's sort of, look, I'm making this up, but the calls would come in and they'd sort of be dressaged, is that the right word? Yeah. And so that they would more efficiently dispatch the ambulances depending on how much of an emergency there was.
Right.
When I look at what the fire departments are doing, and the majority of their calls are medical, is there any way that, and it's so expensive to send a fire truck out, $4,000, $5,000 per call, what dispatch system, could our fire departments get on that system that our ambulances are going to get on? That's a tough one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so medical priority dispatch system is what you're referring to. Simcoe County went to it in the spring of 2024. We noticed a approximately 20% drop in our medical responses because the way they prioritize them now. The further they go through, initially they don't consider calling fire until they get to a certain point. They say, okay, we need more rapid response, so we're going to send fire. Ambulance is delayed, so that's when we sort of get tiered in. Dufferin County is starting that, I believe, this fall, and we'll probably see a similar. I don't think Rosemont and probably Mallorca is going to see as much a decrease as, say, Orangeville, because we're more remote. It takes ambulances longer to get there anyway, so we're still probably going to get called out as the initial medical responders. I don't know if fire. When you're referring to fire, do you mean, okay, well, this isn't a big fire, so we are just going to send a small truck, or is that sort of how you're referring to it? Because once we get a fire, we treated every fire the same.
I mean medical calls.
Oh, medical. Well, yeah, so the medical calls come from 911. They're the ones using this medical priority dispatch system. So they're going to be the ones that filter out whether fire needs to go or not. So,
Could I just remind our clerk then that we have a written agreement with Orangeville? You've just heard what the chief said when Simcoe adopted it, the number of their calls went down. So our number of calls with Orangeville should go down next year, which should affect the formula that determines how much we pay Orangeville for that service. Just make a mental note of that.
that's assuming if it's the same. Like, I can only comment, Barrie Fire made or Barrie Fire Dispatch, who dispatches us, made a comment on an online meeting I attended that there was across the board, there was roughly a 20% drop. That's not the same for every department because it depends on, there's different levels of medical response based on what your department wants to do. So we're a higher tier response because we're trained to a higher level. We respond to more medical calls than say, Grand Valley, I believe, is on the lower end. They don't respond to many medicals because they have an ambulance right in town. So they've put themselves lower down on the list of as far as what they're going to respond to, where Rosemont and I believe Mummer Melanchthon are sort of higher up on the list, partly because of being more remote. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. That was very useful, Chief.
Thank you. So that, can I just, that, you also are wanting to have a increased medical response ability.
Correct. So
And all of our, Mono is, and Mono, with respect to this governance discussion that's going around, the other thing that gets bandied about is that the level of service should be the same everywhere, but it depends on, you've just explained that the level of service may be different just for many reasons. So can you go just a little deeper into that medical thing?
So, yeah, so right now we respond to some of the categories. So defibrillator or CPR, using an EpiPen for somebody that's been stung by a bee or is having an allergic reaction. Those are all medical procedures. So currently we do not have the authority to do that. Fire departments across Ontario have been doing it for decades, but there's this medical, technically, you're supposed to have medical directives from a medical authority, a doctor or a hospital or an organization that will supervise your, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but will direct your, they give you medical directives to say, this is the way you're going to do these procedures. So we've been operating without it. Toronto, I'm former Etobicoke firefighter, Toronto, we adopted this probably 25 years ago, or 20 years ago anyway. And now it's starting to be adopted more by the fire departments, more rural fire departments. But 3 or 4 years ago, Angela Tosferano got this medical oversight. We tried to get it at the time for Rosemont, but because we were in Dufferin County, Simcoe County EMS, who supervises the medical directives, would not take us on because we were outside of Simcoe County. So at that time, myself and actually Mr. Pendleton's sister-in-law is an active member of our department, and between her and I, and some other members, we've been really pushing to get it at the county level, as well as just for, if nobody else is going to do it, we're going to do it for ourselves. So we've initially reached out to Dufferin EMS and Hamilton Health Sciences. We're sort of moving along a little bit, and then Simcoe EMS said that they would do it for us. So now that's been our latest focus, to get EMS, or Simcoe County EMS, to be our medical directors per se, because they've already do AGTOS and most of Simcoe County fire departments, and they're active in it, and they have the program set up where Dufferin County would be all new for them. So we've sort of been pushing. Well, we're not getting much response as of late, so we're hoping to hear back from them soon. And what really pushed us, it was from the beginning we were trying to get it. It's just we're delayed. And then recently AGTOS said, well, if you guys don't get it, we're going to start responding to medicals in that area of AGTOS that we provide coverage to. So that's why we have a bigger push now for us to get it, because we don't want, we're still doing the same thing, it's just we don't have the medical oversight. And it's there to protect our firefighters, it's there for the community, and we've already budgeted for it, It's not a huge expense for us because we're already trained to that higher level of emergency medical responder, so it should be very easy for us to transition over.
I have another question from the medical side of council.
So does that mean that currently you are doing CPR and defibrillation? Yeah. Thank you.
Mike, sorry.
Yeah, we haven't changed anything. We're still doing the job. We just want to get that protection in place for our firefighters and make sure we're doing everything by the book as best we can.
If we have no further questions, I just have a comment that I think your presentation was wonderful. And often we get asked, what does municipal government do? What services does it provide? And I would commend anyone to look at what you've presented here today to see a large part of what we provide to the citizens of our community and what is happening in other municipalities. It's very reassuring, so much so I was trying to think of reasons why your boundary could be expanded into my area. I'm right on the edge. Because 10 minutes is pretty impressive, is very impressive. So thank you very much, and feel free at any time to reach out to us. We're here, and we certainly responded when the suggestion came up that Toss Agila was going to pull out, and we will do so again.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me here, and on behalf of the Rosemont firefighters, it's our pleasure to do what we do, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. So we have a 10 o'clock item, and I think we are being joined remotely. But I'm going to go to that now, and that is, pardon me, I need now to change. I've just lost my my connection here. So this is the requested exemption from our noise bylaw for
I still have a connection.
an event. I know what I need to do here, if the council can bear with me. I need to change
Technology.
change readers here. Just 1 second.
So somebody's calling in to present, or we've got somebody here?
Mike?
I see 7 people online. Andrew, is there a member from the application for the noise bylaw exemption?
It looks like Fernando is here and will be speaking to it.
And his camera.
Well, good morning. Yes, it's me, Fernando Desert. Yes.
Okay, just if you can bear with me, I'm reconnecting or not. Okay, I'm going to basically fly by the seat of my pants.
So if you want to pass it over to me, I can
Okay,
I
go
can lead
ahead.
us into this.
While
So-
I'm trying to troubleshoot.
So the town received an application for an exemption from the noise bylaw, the current bylaw, for the Great Benjamin Circus. The clerk has put together an overview of the exemptions that are requested. He's done some work with respect to the propagation of noise from the source, provided council with some maps, and gave an overview of the standard decibel levels that and what they equate to as they're heard by human ears. The council themselves have received 5, I believe, comments from the public. One of the comments that does not have a name, but it was submitted by Mark Darby, and council received that email in person, I believe. But it did cause caused question yesterday, so it was submitted by an actual person. But the clerk has provided a lot of information for council to have a fulsome discussion on this, and at that point, I would leave it with council.
Okay. Who would like to lead off here? Fred?
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and just check the back lawn to see if they're building a scaffold out there for me. But when I read the technical data, never mind the opinions we got, this is my understanding, and I'd ask the clerk or the acting clerk to correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding of this technical information is that a microphone at 80 decibels from the location of the Orangeville Agricultural Society would, at approximately 1 kilometer distance out, 1,000 meters, be equivalent to about a noise level of 20 decibels, which is less than a whisper. So when I look at this request, I think, when I look at that circle of how many houses are within that 1 kilometer circle, there's not a lot. And for the record, that 1 kilometer circle does not hit Blue Heron Drive. So the people at Blue Heron, they would hear less. Let me just demonstrate.
Okay.
You can't hear me, can you? I hear you clearly. When I was talking at less than 20 decibels, you couldn't hear me. So I think I'm willing to listen to arguments. First of all, I'd like the acting clerk to correct me if my understanding of the technical data is incorrect. If it is correct, I'm quite prepared to grant this request, but I will respectfully listen to my fellow councillors to see if I've misconstrued something.
So Deputy Mayor Nix, you are correct in your interpretation of that. There was a distance attenuation calculator utilized and footnoted in the clerk's report. The clerk provided 250 meter sound pressure and 1,000 meter as well.
And even at 250 meters, the sound level is less than the noise a refrigerator would make.
In between a whispering and a refrigerator, yes.
So just for the public that are listening, that's what we're talking about. A microphone going till, what, 9 o'clock at night? No, 7:30 at night, sorry. Going to 7:30 at night, that,
No, 9.
nine, okay, yeah. That within 250 meters would be making a noise of less than a refrigerator, which barely gets that noise off the fairground property. In fact, within that circle, I can see, I believe I'm correct, I can see no houses within that circle. All right, I will cease and desist.
Okay. Ralph and then Melinda.
Well, this application has some pros. That is that some and many people like circuses, and that's nice. It has some cons. It's a late application. The bylaw requires applications to be within 90 days, and this one is within 32 days. So I'm not quite sure why, and this is a question to staff, why we're considering it, because my understanding is that previously we have not accepted applications if they were in less than 90 days.
Ralph, you've got to speak into the mic.
Do you want me to start again?
There we go.
Okay. I said the pros to this is that it is an entertainment which many people will enjoy, and that there are some cons as well. The first one is that the application is required to be made within 90 days of the event, and this one was made within 32 days, and I'm not sure why we should be even considering it because of that. I don't know the history of applications being turned down because they were less than 90 days, but I think I can recall this happening before. So that's, to me, a significant process one. the surrounding disturbance that Fred has mentioned, I kind of ignore appreciate staff's giving us this information. And by the way, when I click on the distance calculator, it doesn't say anything about attenuation. It just tells us how to calculate distances. So maybe it's just a matter of the web address is not quite correct, Mike. We can't really rely on them to keep it down to 80 decibels. So I think that the number system is something that we should largely ignore. We know that noise is described as something that the emission of sound that's clearly audible at the point of reception, and I could hear your whispering, Fred. It's in a prohibited area. And that's the definition of noise. The sound is deemed to be not appreciated by the people who are receiving it. So noise is unwanted sound, and that's what we've always consider. It's not a matter of so many decibels, etc. We also have a problem with the Ag Center not policing their events. They had an event, they had a Ram Rodeo last Friday. I wasn't there, but was reported to me, I think, quite reliably that the amplified sound, there was no exemption, and amplified sound carried on to about 7 p.m. I'm surprised that this application has come through. The Ag Center said previously that they would never have this circus back because of all the complaints that they had. The final thing, which is of some concern, is that the President of the United States has decided that we're the enemy, not the friend and ally that we thought we were, and is making rules that are very hard on our workers and our economy. And we recognize this in council here, and we passed a bylaw which would recommend, if at all possible, we would procure items from anywhere other than the United States, if possible. So I don't know that, I'm not very comfortable with supporting a Texas-based organization that breaks all the rules.
Any other comments?
Thank you very much. Yes, I have to say, I have to agree with all the points that Councillor Manktelow has made. But it's an interesting thing because we're in the middle of readjusting our noise bylaw. And so the noise bylaw that is in action today does talk about the decibels, right? Versus the new definition of noise being just something that's going to really disturb the inhabitants. So I don't know whether I'm supposed to be looking at that, keeping that information up front because we haven't agreed on that yet, and just going with our old one, which is in force. And so we have this bylaw that's in force that we're not going to have amplified sound after 5 p.m. And here we've got an event that isn't even interested in starting until 4:30 in the afternoon, like right before. So it's completely flouting our standing bylaw. And the numbers and Deputy Mayor Nix's comments on the whisper and the numbers on a flat line and so on when you measure them out and there's no wind and there's no whatever. I don't know. I heard some recordings from this weekend from a great distance away from the event that was going on, and it would have disturbed me too. So and this is a completely different event, but I don't know. You know, the over the water, watch what you say when you're canoeing because people can hear you, right? Like it does. Sound is not, I don't think, as nice round circles like the graph shows us. So I'm inclined to, as I say, for the number of reasons that Councillor Manktelow outlined, also to not grant this exemption.
So at our last council meeting, I had a discussion with the manager of the event center who clearly told me that this organization had yet to enter into a contract with the event center. So I don't know whether they have subsequent to that conversation or whether they're waiting to see what our decision is.
Elaine's hand is up.
Elaine?
Thank you, Your Worship. Like, I would like to know, is this the same circus that was here last year that the fairgrounds got so many complaints about and said they would never have them back?
Is there anyone within earshot of the, it's the same.
Same
Okay.
organization?
That's what we're reliably told from the back of the council chamber. Thank you.
Okay, and my next question would be, how many town of Mono residents attended such event last year, and how many have planned to attend this year?
I don't know if there's anyone within earshot who would know the answer to that. And
So
I think
there's
I think
nobody
it's
from the
I think it's
circus?
beside the point in terms of a do we grant a noise exemption or not? I have strong feelings about the notion that it's only a whisper that you hear, because so much is dependent on wind direction, humidity, how sound carries over water. This is described as sort of a typical amplification. Well, I think Ram Rodeo and other events have had probably pretty typical amplification, and yet have aggravated neighbors who are within earshot of it. I did see the representative from the circus, Fernando. Can you help us out with any of this?
Yes. Well, yeah, we had the circus last year, but to be honest, we didn't receive any of the complaints you guys mentioned. I talked to the manager of the old center, and well, the feedback we received that there was a complaint with the noise last year, and we were aware that we have to apply for this like noise exemption, and we were taking the risk if it was approved or not. Last year we had an attendance of 200 people per show. We had 7 shows in total, and the attendance is looking the same this year. I've seen some of the agendas that the tickets are not refundable. Of course, are going to be refundable if we're not allowed to proceed with this. And regarding the other comment about the times, we also gave the option that we can cancel the shows in the afternoon if it's needed, because as my understanding, the law says that we cannot have any sounds after 5 p.m. So we gave the option to cancel the 4:30 show, just have the 1:30 show, which is going to be ending up around 3 p.m. But yeah, we are aware that this could be approved or not. We are just trying to follow all the city requirements and all the rules. This wasn't submitted on time. It was 30 days before, which is what normally takes us to do permits, like building permits, health department permits, fire department permits. But we were not aware about the noise law by law. Otherwise, we would have done it 90 days in advance. Okay. But if you have any other questions, just let me know, and I'll be happy to help with that.
If you can hang on, there's still members of council who want to comment. Elaine?
And I do want to clarify, this is an American company, American Circus, American performers, and what is the Canadian content, and what percent are these Canadians who are putting this circus on?
Yeah, we're an American circus that has been coming for Canada for, I don't know, the last 7-6 years. We have international artists. We don't have just American people working in there. We have people from other countries as well. And as now, we don't have any Canadian performers, but we do support like Canadian economy. We get our supplies in here. We get rentals in here. We get the insurances from Canada. So in a certain way, we support also the economy. But yeah, we don't have any Canadian performers. We're an American company.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other observations, comments? Michael, anything that we should be cognizant of?
So Just one remaining item within the current noise bylaws, 10.6.2. So council can hear from the applicant, which they did, and they can also provide opportunity from the public.
And are there any members of the public online or in the gallery who would like to address this? One ironic observation I'd make is that the mechanism for an exemption in this instance applies to the amplified sound, but I've heard it argued that there are activities which are also prohibited totally by our noise bylaw, such as racing vehicles and noise of various other types. And I don't know what the circus is providing, but there is no application before us that would exempt those things from scrutiny. Mike?
Just to, if I may, Your Worship, just to clarify on that, I believe Section 2.0 under general prohibitions does not speak to the racing of motor vehicles. It speaks to the noise emitted by the racing of motor vehicles.
Well,
it's a
yeah.
little convoluted, right? And then it goes on later to talk about proper mufflers and proper sound. So yes, it would be the noise that would be emitted from any racing of the vehicles.
Depending on how quiet those are, it's a distinction without a difference.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Just one added comment with respect to timelines. We heard from Fernando with respect to the 90 days, but the clerk did process this, and we were able to meet the 14-day notification process. So,
Okay. And we've certainly had public comments, and there are people online who have at least one anyway, possibly two, three, who have expressed concerns. I'm afraid I will not be supporting an exemption from our noise bylaw.
So can I ask a question to clarify, Fernando? I don't recall reading in there that, I mean, these are the times that you're asking for, and you're asking for an exemption because you're going to do the 7 shows that spread over the 3 days at the 2 shows a day. So you are, if you don't get the exemption, you would still be, you're here and ready to go. So you would do the 1:30 shows the 3 days of, or it wasn't Friday, the Saturday and Sunday. You would do an earlier show, but of course it would be done well before our 5 o'clock bylaw. Is that what you're saying?
No, I was saying that, I mean, if we're not approved with we were not approved by the exemption, we're not going to go ahead with the event at all because, well, to be honest, I wasn't considering that. We were willing or trying to cooperate, and if we were told that maybe we can operate without having the 4:30 show, to be honest, I haven't been considering to still have the show if we didn't get the noise exemption. But if that's not an issue, we can still go ahead without having the 4:30 and 10:30 show. Maybe I can double check with the manager about still having the show. To be honest, it was just an option. So.
Okay, because you wouldn't need, if you were just, you wouldn't need an exemption because you're allowed to have amplified sound with our present bylaw until 5 p.m. So I just was wanting that clarified just for our residents if we did deny this, but then there was noise on the weekend during the day. But okay, thank you.
So I don't know that we need a motion unless it is to grant an exception to the noise bylaw. I'm open to that, or we can just assume that from the comments made that that probably would not pass. So, Fred, if you want to move a motion,
Well, as you said, the sense around the table is the motion wouldn't pass. I honestly don't know. I'm in your hands, Your Worship.
Mike?
So council has a prepared motion by the clerk. There's two ways to do it. You can put that motion on the floor, you can vote on it, which would provide straightforward direction to the applicant, or should a councillor wish to put another, an alternative motion on the floor, would be an option, but I think it would be appropriate to provide a motion so there's direction to staff on this matter.
Well, I'm going to have to take that motion verbally because I don't actually have a printed version of that.
No, oh, you're cut off?
Oh, pardon me. From the agenda, I can look it up, obviously.
Not the agenda, the package of prepared motions.
Yeah, I don't have that. It's too.
The clerk's, sorry, I'm just scrolling. The clerk's recommendation is representative of the motion that was, of the resolution that was provided to council. So if you,
Okay.
or I can read.
No, I can do it from here.
Okay.
I just don't want to touch my computer lest it blow up.
Perfect.
So the motion reads that council for the town of Mono grants a waiver of bylaw 2004-16 noise bylaw to All American Entertainment Productions LLC to hold the event, the Great Benjamin Circus, on June 20th, 21st, and 22nd, 2025 at the Orangeville Agricultural Society Fairgrounds, AKA Orangeville Event Center, in a manner consistent with their application and subject to the following. Number one, amplified sound shall not exceed 80 decibels at the source. Two, amplified sound shall not extend beyond 9 p.m. And number three, the public address speakers shall be placed in a manner to reduce sound propagation towards adjacent and nearby residential areas. Do I have a mover for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Nix, seconded by Elaine Capes.
Not sure if she said.
No, she's not in here.
Yep. Okay, any further discussion, Elaine?
Could I make a friendly amendment? Because again, we're talking about the existing noise bylaw, and amplified sound, number two, shall not exceed beyond what the actual bylaw says versus 9 p.m.
Well, it's 5 o'clock is the actual bylaw.
A friendly amendment,
So what's the amendment, Elaine?
so that it matches the noise bylaw. Amplified sound shall not exceed beyond 5 p.m.
Well, then they don't need an exemption. They wouldn't be applying for an exemption.
The amendment is contrary to the intent of the motion in as much as the
Okay.
motion speaks to 9
Okay.
o'clock. So,
Okay.
okay, are we prepared to have a,
Mike put his
Mike?
hand up, I'm not sure.
No, thanks, I'm fine.
are we prepared to have a vote on this? All those in favor? Those opposed? And the motion is lost. And again, this is to be clear for everyone listening. This pertains only to the request that we grant an exemption from our noise bylaws. So the noise bylaw, as it currently exists, is still in force and enforceable. Okay. Thank you. We'll have a break, and our thanks to the representative from the circus, and you've answered our questions well, and we appreciate that.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let's have a 10-minute break. The list of unfinished business. Any comments on the list? I'm not seeing any. So next item is the resolution by Councillor Manktelow. I'm going to read it so that it goes on to the floor, and then we can have debate, discussion. Sorry? Oh, sure, if you want to. Go ahead.
This is a repeat of the.
Speak close to the mic, please.
This is a repeat of the previous motion by one of our other municipalities, and it's it's been taken up also by Orangeville recently. It's really a very important motion because it's a thing which we have not really paid attention to, and that is our soil. And we just take it for granted. In fact, we sometimes just call it dirt. And we treat it that way. We have a very limited amount of soil. It's a very thin layer on top of the earth. I was surprised when I purchased my farm 40 years ago that the topsoil was 6 to 8 inches, and after that it was clay or gravel. And of course, it's worse here because we had the ice age 11,000 years ago, which scraped everything away. But it took 11,000 years to build up 6 or 7 inches of soil. So we have a problem with soil because it's being contaminated. We build on it, and it gets blown away, and it's just not taken care of. So I think this is a very important report that was put out by a standing committee of the Senate, and it was a year ago. I haven't heard any follow-up on it, and I think for that reason, there may not be any follow-up on it. We should pass this motion and try and get the attention of the federal and the provincial government. And the motion which John is going to read, it copies to everybody from all the municipalities of Dufferin right through, I'd say up to the Prime Minister of Canada. John?
Okay. So I'm going to read the motion, then we can have further discussion. Whereas the Standing Senate Committee on Agriculture and Forestry published a report in 2024 titled Critical Ground: Why Soil is Essential to Canada's Economic, Environmental, Human, and Social Health, that contained 25 recommendations stating that soil is as critical as the air we breathe and the water we drink. And whereas there has been continued soil degradation and loss in agricultural and forest lands in every region of Canada as a result of climate change, extreme weather events, droughts, fires, and floods, urbanization, and inadequate soil management practices. And whereas recommendation 7 of Critical Ground stated that, quote, the Government of Canada encourages provinces, territories, and municipalities to develop measures as a form of land use planning that best preserve and protect soil and agricultural and forested land. Therefore, be it resolved that the Town of Mono fully supports all the recommendations included within Critical Ground and will consider how to implement the recommendations contained within Critical Ground when completing a review of the Town of Mono official plan. And further, that the Town of Mono urges the Government of Canada and the Province of Ontario to implement all the recommendations contained within Critical Ground, to commit to recognizing a sense of urgency and act accordingly to protect and conserve soil. And further, that the Government of Canada must take a lead and collaborate with the provinces, territories, Indigenous governments, academia, and agricultural and forestry products to collect, analyze, and share data on soil productivity so that we can better understand and improve strategies to enhance our soil's capabilities. And further, that in Canada's north, as a melting permafrost and the unknown amount of carbon it stores and releases poses global risks through the creation through the increased emission of greenhouse gases and local risks for agriculture and forestry, we recommend the creation of a national permafrost assessment center that would research this new threat and propose policy changes to enhance solutions to these issues. And further, as soil is a valuable and natural resource, the Government of Canada should designate soil as a strategic national asset. And further, that this motion be circulated to the following parties, and that is followed by a list of parties to receive a copy of the motion. Do you wish me to read those?
Not necessarily.
Okay, thank you. And you'd like to move this? Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Okay, Elaine seconds. Any further
And
discussion?
thank you, Ralph, for bringing that forward.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Thank you. Any further debate? I think it's a very important initiative. Any opposed to the motion as read? Motion is carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the water rate bylaw assessment, amendment, I should say. Over to you, Les.
Thank you, Your Worship. At the last council meeting, Mr. Stephen of Watson Associates was here, presented to council a financial plan for the waterworks, which was required for our waterworks systems license renewal. And out of the water financial plan came out the rates that they recommended. So the bylaw before you is an amendment to our existing water bylaw to implement the financial plan. Pretty well straightforward.
Thank you. Let me get to my, sorry, I'm at a disadvantage here. So I have a motion that we, any discussion on the water rates? Fred?
Well, I just would like to say for the record that I sure don't like it. These rates is just ridiculous how high they're going to go, but it seems to me we don't have a choice. The government says to renew our license, we have to submit a financial plan. We've hired a consultant. We've done that. The consultant says, and here's the rates that have to go along with this financial plan. So we're sort of over a barrel. We have to pass the motion, so I will do it reluctantly.
Well, yes.
I think it just speaks to one more example that we must put money aside for our assets because it is better to pay for things, small increments over a long period of time, even if you're not going to be the people who avail of the ultimate asset renewal. The prices just keep going up, and putting money aside earlier rather than later is better for everybody. But I completely concur there. It's disappointing that it's so much, but also there is this infrastructure that's needed, so.
Ralph?
This is a significant increase in the water rates, and I recognize that. The Watson have prepared a report for us, and the financial basis or the principle was that it would be a capital cost allowance. In other words, we would be paying up front for the costs that we would eventually have, and that the users of the water service would pay. And I think that is fair. The users of the water service should also know that the town has and our staff have worked quite hard to decrease this by getting a sizable grant. I haven't got the figures, but I think it's $3 or $4 million to help deal with the mitigate the arsenic problem. So that's a big plus, and thanks to the staff for that. I've also had a comment from one resident about this and comparing it to people in rural areas, and I appreciate that. People in rural areas have capital costs as well for both sewage and for water, which is usually in the range of $50,000 to $100,000 as an initial outlay, and then they have maintenance costs ongoing. So they're well aware of the issues of water and sewage. And unfortunately, this is being now brought more to the community in our southern section. And I regret that the cost is going up, but there's nothing that I can see that's inappropriate about this estimate. Thank you.
Elaine?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, fellow councillors, for those comments, and I agree with them all. You know, the cost of things are the cost of things, and yes, we do have to do asset management planning, and we do that for everything else, and we need to follow those principles. And yes, it is the cost to the current owners and whoever purchases those properties in the future. But like Councillor Manktelow mentioned, those on rural properties would have to pay for drilling and replacing their own well or replacing their own septics for wastewater management. So I'm going to guess it's a lot less expensive in the long run for a homeowner in a subdivision, but I don't know that for a fact. But yes, regretfully, it is a fact, but the facts are the facts, and we are following the principles that we set for asset management and for this being costed out the way it is. And so I will have to agree with this, even though it's a challenge.
Thank you. And just to remind everybody who may be listening, the users of the system are the ones who are bearing the operational costs, and a portion of the costs go towards future capital requirements. So we are setting aside money for future eventualities. If we got into a situation where the taxpayer generally was paying for water or sewage services, we would have to be consistent in that and make it applicable to every resident of the town of Mono. And I don't think we want to go there, and nobody else does. And everyone with a water system or a sewage system, no matter how large a municipality or small, is facing the same kinds of things. We are absolutely not alone. So, do I have haven't read the motion yet, have I?
No.
That we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to amend bylaw 2014-35, water bylaw, that it be signed by the mayor and clerk for the town of Mono, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Manktelow. Any opposition? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Next item is the Town of Shelburne proposal to dissolve the Shelburne and District Fire Board. Mike, I'm going to have, oh.
I'm sorry, pardon me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you had me wondering there.
I'm on the library, I don't know how it happened, so I'm sorry.
Right, and Town of Shelburne proposal. Mike, do you want to lead in on this? And
Thanks, Your Worship. So June 3rd, we received notice from the town of Shelburne with respect to a resolution that was passed by their council. And sorry, just get my glasses. Couldn't find them. So we received a resolution from the town of Shelburne. Had quite a few statements in it. Some deadlines that staff believe are unrealistic with respect to assessments, and they also recommended that the board be dissolved. I didn't have time to prepare a report for council, but I did have time to prepare a resolution that was in council's agenda package, and at this time, I think probably best we open the floor for conversations with respect to this matter.
okay. So, Fred, go ahead.
Well, just so that the public understands, the fire board was created in 1991. it was created by the passing of an agreement among 5 municipalities. In retrospect, that agreement, as it was written, is probably a little rough, and it certainly, over the last few years, has become outdated. Contrary to what Shelburne councillors argue, we did spend a lot of time trying to revise that agreement and updating it. We did that, I can't remember, 3 or 4 years ago. And we came up with a new agreement, and 4 municipalities agreed to it. Shelburne did not. In fairness to Shelburne, their argument was that we have a formula that determines how much each municipality pays of the operating and capital cost for the fire department. And Shelburne's share has been climbing steeply over the last number of years. It's now up, it's over 57%. So their argument is they're paying 57% of the freight, but they only have 2 votes out of 10 on the fire board, 20%. And that's a fair comment. But I would counter that comment with this statement, that in my 15 years on the fire board, we've never had, with possibly one small exception, we've never had a situation where the fire board's had a vote where the vote's gone against what Shelburne wants to do. All of our votes basically are, by consensus. Some of them may not have been unanimous, but we've basically all agreed on what we have to do and what the costs are and what our budget's going to be. There was one argument way back when we bought the aerial truck, because it was quite expensive. But in the end, and Elaine Capes is right in a sense, the primary need for it, not the only need, was the town of Shelburne, because it had some tall buildings where the only way you could fight a fire was putting a ladder way up in the air and fighting down on the fire. But in the end, we all agreed. We bought the fire truck. So my comment to Shelburne's position is, yeah, it may not be fair that you've only got 2 votes out of 10, but there's never been an issue where that's become really important. So now, as of last week, their council passed this motion. They want to dissolve the fire board. I've talked to the other 3 municipalities, Mulmer, Amaranth, and Melanchthon, and I think we're all sort of feeling a bit of angst about this, because as our clerk has said, the timelines are, they want us to have a meeting, they want to give us some numbers, and they want a decision fairly quickly. Those dates are just unrealistic. I would also put this into my comments, if I'm not going on too long, Your Worship, that one of my difficulties with what Shelburne is asking is that in the 1991 agreement, there is no mechanism for how you dissolve the fire board. The only thing the 1991 agreement says is if the fire board is dissolved, you have to split the assets up, okay? So in Mono's case, over the last 10, 15 years, we've been paying, 11%, we're now down to whatever it is, 7 or 8% of when we buy an asset. That's what Mono's share has been, based on the formula. So if the fire board were to be dissolved, the 1991 agreement says you have to split those assets up. Fair game. So Shelburne is offering to buy us out by paying us for those assets. But in and of itself, the agreement does not say how you go about dissolving the fire board. It does say if a municipality wants to withdraw from the fire board, it has to leave the assets on the table, so it doesn't get any assets. It just withdraws from the fire board. But that's not what Shelburne is asking. Shelburne is asking to dissolve the fire board. I technically don't know quite how you can do it. I'll offer this guess, and if someone has got a better suggestion, please let me know. I think the only way you can dissolve the fire board is for 5 municipalities to pass a motion which in effect rescinds the 1991 agreement and which rescinds their current bylaws on fire service. That, if all 5 municipalities did that, de facto, the fire board would be dissolved. In a really strict sense, and I'm not arguing that we should do this, Your Worship, but we as a municipality have stated our position about current fire service in Dufferin County. We said we're happy with the status quo. That was our response to the county report. we could sit here and read this letter from Shelburne and say, thank you very much, but no thank you. My fear with that response is that I don't know that we want to get into a long, sort of even legal battle on this issue, okay? That's what I've got to say. So my suggestion, and I've talked to the clerk about this, is I think we have to agree with Shelburne that, yes, we're prepared to sit down and have some meetings. By the way, in talking to Melanchthon, Mulmer, and Melanchthon, they're sort of in a similar position. They're not happy with this letter, but they're not jumping up and saying we're going to fight it. They're not jumping up and saying we're going to agree to Shelburne. What they are saying is, yeah, I guess we should have a meeting. My hope, I'm not looking forward to that meeting, but you know, maybe that's the only way around this, is to sit down with the 5 municipalities and say, what are the problems? What are the issues? What are the possible solutions? What can we do? I mean, and maybe there are things we could do. If maybe we could go back to that revised 1991 agreement and tell Shelburne, all right, your representatives have 2 votes for every one of everyone else's. I don't know what the solutions are, but at least I'm saying that I think we should agree to have a meeting with the other municipalities. I think I've finished.
I saw Elaine and then Ralph.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Fred, for that. Well, an easy solution would be for Shelburne to simply withdraw and leave their assets on the table.
Well, I just,
agree with that.
all right.
That's how the agreement is written, and they could do that. If they want out of it, they can withdraw from it. The other thing I wanted to understand is, past the financial chart, there's a paragraph that says, for comparison, the Rosemont District Fire Department has 2 representatives, blah, blah, blah. It says that each member from Mulmer Council shall have 2 votes on the board.
Yes.
Two votes each. We have never, in the time I've been on that fire board, in this council or last council, had 2 votes from each of those Mulmer members. So I've never seen this, anyway, so I question that.
Can I clarify that before Ralph brings to his questions? Elaine, I think that's because, no, you're right. I was going to say because there's 2 of them, but then there's only 1 of us, but you're right. No, you're right. There's 2 of all of us, right? Pardon me. So I don't know the answer to that.
Ralph?
Right, and we've never, ever recognized the votes that they cast, like everybody else, as counting for more than 1 vote per individual.
No weighted vote then.
So
But
I'd
yeah,
like,
Shelburne can withdraw. There's no issue. They can withdraw.
Go ahead.
so I'd like to go back to the beginning. The question is, why is Shelburne wanting to do this? And if we understood that, maybe there's something else rather than this very huge change that they're proposing. It's not governance, because Fred's mentioned that they only have 2 votes. We could easily change that so they'd have a representative number of votes. So what is it? What do you guys? Hey?
Money. So I sit on this board as well, and they're proposing, they want control. They want control, and ultimately, the control is going to come down to money, because their town is growing. They're going to have some money, I presume, from the development charges, and fire services get that kind of money. But it's probably not going to be enough if we were to build the new fire hall that's needed. And so I think it's that they just want 100% control, and that is what they're proposing, that there would be still some collaboration and cooperation and so on with us, but we would not actually have a say. They're saying the Deferred review said that one of the options was for a municipality to take over services. So they're saying they want to take back, because I wasn't here before 91, so I don't know what, I guess they had it to begin with. They want to take back their service, and then they want to provide services to all of us. And if they, they're saying that they don't have enough votes and that there hasn't been, we've been spinning our wheels, and so it's time to change things. And if ever there was an example of ramrodding like we heard earlier this morning, I'd say that this is it. Because they don't like the conversation that's going around the table with the representatives. There already is 2 representatives from each municipality around the table. They don't like that, and so they're going to go over the board and wanting to speak to just the CIOs and mayors. And I had one other point, but it's gone, so I'll come back to that.
Could I just elaborate on a point that Melinda made? Sorry, Ralph. Just on that thing that Shelburne's doing this because of money. First of all, I don't know why Shelburne's doing it, but to elaborate on what Melinda said, and you may be right, Melinda, we have an asset management plan. We know we have to do something with the fire hall. I don't know whether it's rebuild it or redo the office part or expand it. We're not sure what the solution is. By the way, what Shelburne is asking us to do is to disband, cease and desist the subcommittee that was looking into that. But I think what possibly scared them, when we were mulling over our asset management plan, we said, how much do we need to put aside for the fire hall? We have no idea. We looked at what Orangeville has been going through, and we grabbed the number out of the air, just totally out of the air, $15 million, and we put it in the asset management plan. My suspicion, Melinda, and I'm just guessing, is that might be what scared them. Because by putting $15 million in there and then saying to Shelburne, and you owe 57% of this, that's a lot of money. But I'm guessing, but I want the public to know, we just grabbed that number out of the air. We really have no idea what it is.
But also because it was responsible to put some number down so that then there is something to back against asking municipalities over the next, I don't know when the new fire hall is coming, 20 years, but you're putting in a way of some reserves. And after that 15 million number went down, we around the table had a chat, we really are going to do something. Let's put in, and it was your suggestion, let's put in 100 grand on the table so that at least we can get a study done or just get the ball rolling on what it is we need because we've grabbed this number out of the air. So that was responsible governance.
Elaine and then Ralph.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And I think it's a good question to ask why. Why and why now? And what is it that we are trying to achieve? Never mind what's the problem. It's not about problems. It's about what are we trying to achieve, and can we achieve that through the current structure? And I think I would like to see there be a conversation. I think we all need to have the same understanding, and I think it needs to be all councils and CAOs, not just 2 from here and 2 from there. I think it needs to be all of us. And I think we owe that to our residents, and we owe it to ourselves to have everybody around the table to talk about what it is that, you know, what are their feelings about this? What are their concerns about this? Like, what are we going to achieve together? Because we know we can achieve things to get better together with a collective approach rather than everybody going off on their own. And what would that look like if we were thinking about modifying that? So I would be open to having a conversation, but their timeline for those are a little too soon.
Ralph, and then I have a comment.
So I'm quite with you on that, Elaine. I'm not sure who should be at the meeting, but there should be representatives of the 5 municipalities. This is a very major change, and is it really warranted? What are their problems? Are their problems financial, or are they control? Do we need power, or what is it? In doing this, 43% of the input, which is the non-Shelburne input, is given no votes, no say. And so that's a big thing. And we're in a world where we don't always say that the person of the group that has 50% or plus 1 is in charge. We try and listen to everybody. I think that we should have a meeting. I think it'd be functional if it was a smaller group. And it would be to understand Shelburne's concerns, and then we might be able to go ahead with something simpler than this dissolving of the whole department.
Thank you, Mayor. I remembered what it was I was going to say. When you were commenting on the distinction between dissolving and withdrawing, and that you need all the municipalities, and that all the municipalities around the table the other night when this was presented as information, oh, by the way, we passed this last night at our fire board meeting. We all felt sideswiped by it. But if we actually looked at what the resolutions had come out of the services review, Deferred Services Review study, there are a couple of municipalities that did pass bylaws, motions that included the word dissolve. We dissolve the board in principle and start the North Dufferin, or dissolve the board and whatever, start something else. So that word has been used by a couple of municipalities already.
So Mike, have we ever bounced this off our municipal solicitor as to whether they can do what they're proposing to do, or whether they are stymied in doing that?
So the town solicitor has provided advice to me, but I don't think it's Mono's responsibility to provide guidance to Shelburne in this context of an open forum meeting, and I think the solicitor advice should be protected by client privilege.
Okay.
But there is a path for Shelburne, and but the path is similar to what Deputy Mayor Nick said. Speaks to the other 4 remaining members of the fire board and their agreement to cease to participate, dissolve, however you want to say it. The current agreement sets up 2 votes per member of municipality. So, so I think. Sorry, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it's probably time now to read a motion, take any amendments to it. Just before I do, I was interested in the notion that money was behind this. I never thought fire services were a profit center.
No, I think it's about money, getting enough money to provide the service. I don't, no, I'm not in any way indicating that they want to make money. It's that these are big numbers.
Fair enough.
And it's like our arsenic and whatever. They're big numbers, and how do we get these to our services?
So with the indulgence of council, I'll read the prepared motion and I'll take amendments to it. Whereas the town of Shelburne has proposed to dissolve the Shelburne and District Fire Board by the second quarter of 2026, and whereas the agreement establishing the Shelburne and District Fire Department includes a process should a participating municipality wish to cease participating in the board, and whereas the agreement stipulates that a municipality shall provide 2 years written notice of its intent to cease participating in the fire board, and whereas the town of Shelburne has indicated its intent to establish a Shelburne Fire Department that includes a model where municipalities, including Mono, may purchase contracted fire services under an agreement with the town of Shelburne, and whereas council for the town of Mono needs to ensure that fire protection services to its residents continue to be adequately provided. Therefore, be it resolved that notwithstanding our willingness to entertain discussions regarding amendments to the agreement, including potential dissolution of the Shelburne and District Fire Board, the Council for the Town of Mono reminds the Town of Shelburne of its contractual obligations to provide the required adequate notice under the agreement, together with complying with other terms of the agreement, and that the council directs town staff to have further discussions with the town of Shelburne together with other partner municipalities in the fire board, and to report back on those discussions to town council. Do I have a mover for that?
What, I'm sorry?
Oh, do I
That's a
have a
very
mover for that?
long motion, like, there's too much in it.
You're right.
Yeah, this is not, but I was just looking up what I saw before. This is not the same.
Yes, it is.
Mike?
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
It's, Fred has got a motion that is no less short, I don't think.
No, this was, sorry, this, John read directly from the resolution package submitted to council last week.
Okay, great. So I just, my mind didn't hear all
Oh,
of it.
okay.
That's
Sorry, microphone.
So sorry. Sorry, I was listening to something and reading it as sometimes comes across different. So we're wanting to have it moved to put it on the table to
Correct.
discuss. So I'll move it.
Okay, seconded? Do you have a seconder? Councillor Capes? Further discussion, Fred?
Yeah, I took that motion, and I've had several discussions with our clerk about it. We don't see quite eye to eye, although we're not that far apart. And I have rewritten the motion and taken out 2 clauses and revised the second last clause. Do you want me to explain what I've taken out and what I've changed?
Absolutely, and move it as a friendly amendment.
If it's a friendly amendment, okay. I have to flip back and forth here from one file to another. The second paragraph. And whereas the agreement establishing the Shelburne District Fire Department includes a process whereby a participating municipality wishes to cease participating in the fire board. Delete that. It's technically correct, it's irrelevant. Third paragraph.
Oh, I'm sorry, why is it, how come you can just say it's irrelevant? Why is it irrelevant?
I'm saying it's irrelevant.
The 2 years written notice is
And the
irrelevant.
third paragraph, and whereas the agreement stipulates that a municipality shall provide 2 years written notice of its intention to cease participating in the fire board, that's the third paragraph, I say delete, it's irrelevant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth paragraph, I have rewritten as follows. You all with me here?
Yeah?
This is how I've rewritten the fifth paragraph. Therefore, be it resolved that notwithstanding Mono Council's stated position that it is satisfied with the status quo, Council for the Town of Mono advises that it is prepared to meet with Shelburne to discuss problems, issues, and possible solutions. Now, at this point, after discussions with the clerk, I'm willing to insert another clause which says if, I haven't got this written down, so I'm just going to ad lib. If Shelburne wishes to withdraw, there is a requirement for 2 years written notice. I'm prepared to put that in my motion. I don't have it in the written one. Last paragraph, I only add 4 words to it. And that council directs staff and 1 representative from council to have further discussions. 1 representative, 5 representatives, I don't care, but I just thought that should be in the operative part of the, so that, is that a friendly amendment, Mr. Clerk?
I would say that's a new, that's pretty,
A new motion.
pretty,
Well, then technically, if I could make the suggestion, Your Worship, the only way we can proceed is for the motion that's on the floor, for you to put it to a vote. If it fails, then I put my motion on the floor.
Does he get to say whether it's a friendly? He didn't answer that. He didn't answer.
I think you're suggesting, Mike, that it's contrary to the basic elements of the motion on the floor.
I would agree with that, Your Worship. Yeah.
The one,
Just because we're up to 3 or 4 paragraphs of amendments in a 6
the
paragraph
one thing I will say in
resolution.
Fred's defense is that the issue of the 2-year notice is sort of covered by the wording that we remind the town of Shelburne of its contractual obligations to provide the requisite notice or required adequate notice. So that's covered off. It's implicit in that.
Can I comment? So I think we're getting into the grass too much. We need something fairly simple, and you had it in your motion, and that was that we discuss the issues. I think that's the whole of the motion. I wouldn't get into discussing this motion. I would just say that we'd like to discuss the issues that the town of Shelburne has, and to see if we can come up with an amicable solution. Get away from all the other stuff. Anyway.
I think that's a very simple solution, Ralph.
That is a good solution. However, this is a response to a aggressive, heavy-handed decision that was made and sent to us. We have a competent CAO who has sought advice and has come up with this, and I'm not sure why we want to soft pedal it. We've had lots of, there was also a comment from the Shelburne mayor when we were talking about this, that, we've had 10 years where we've been trying to sort this out and we haven't, and so we have to do something else. And it's kind of like, wait a second, I've only been involved in it a few years and we've done nothing but work on our governance and provide the best that we can. So I'm not sure why the two paragraphs at the beginning, the whereases, because the whereases set that, like you had just had one, that it was a whole bunch of whereases, right? It sets up the whole thing as opposed to putting a setup thing in the conclusion. I kind of like the strong thing that, and I don't understand how you say it's irrelevant.
I'm not against the whereases. I am trying to simplify what we're going to do, what we're recommending. We're recommending not to deal with this proposal at all. We want it to deal with the problem and start afresh.
Elaine?
No.
Thank you. There's just way too much in that motion for me. And so when I look at this, I say, yes, we've received this letter and we will consider it, because it's just, to put it on the table right now and actually deal with it, I think is too much to ask. And so, let Shelburne do what they will do. And so if they pull out, then they need to follow the 1991 agreement. It needs, if it's a 2-year notice, then they have to give it, so that's fine. But again, I do think that there's worth having a conversation, so that they want to put this before their own council, and that their own council endorses dissolving it. Good for them. We don't want to dissolve it, so that's it.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, there is a motion on the floor. It's not mine, it was the prepared motion. And I'd like to explain why I suggested some parts of it be deleted. By putting the motion that's on the floor, by passing it, you are in effect creating a straw man, straw person. Because you're telling Shelburne, look, if you want to withdraw, this is what you have to do, and this is what the agreement says. Shelburne's response is going to be very simple. Mono, we're not suggesting we want to withdraw. So our motion would simply be laughed at, okay? That's my argument, Mr. Clerk, as to why I think that motion you've got is cumbersome, and it's aiming at the wrong thing. They're not asking to withdraw. They're asking that the fire board be dissolved. So anyway,
Which you, Deputy Mayor, you would agree that there's no explanation of how to do that inside of the current agreement? That would probably explain the two whereases, the second and third paragraphs. To explain back, and Shelburne can tell us that we're not ceasing to participate is the word, but they're put in there as reminders of the current agreement that they are in with
which
the
is
member
why I said,
municipalities.
Mr. Clerk, I'd be quite prepared in the motion I prepared to put in that one new clause, sort of an if clause. If Shelburne wishes to withdraw, we require 2 years' notice as per the
No,
agreement.
but that's already covered off in our insistence that they abide by the conditions of the 91 agreement.
Yeah, but I took that out.
It's redundant.
I took it out.
I guess who are you, when you have a motion that has a therefore be it resolved at the end, that's the bottom line, but who is it that you're writing all the whereases to? I think it's to the people who aren't familiar particularly with the agreement
setting it
and
up.
so on, right? You're setting it up to really make it so that it makes sense. And I think that, yes, Elaine, there's a lot in it, which is why when it was being read to me out loud, I did lose my train of thought here. But every time I read it and I'm looking at the words, I think that it builds and it itemizes and it tells us our therefore. And Ralph, you're right, that the ultimate is, what's the problem? And of course, again, Shelburne's going to tell you that the problem is that we've had a couple of consultants along the way who have said that fire boards, aren't the best management, and so, you should do something different. But that doesn't stand up in law. The fire boards are an acceptable way, and it's been working well with respect to
Well,
providing
and
service.
We had a positive demonstration of that in the delegation today of a fire board that has worked successfully for over 30 years. So I think we have a couple of forks in the road here. There's a motion on the floor. I'm not detecting maybe you have moved well, I would say that I'd agree with our acting clerk that the amendment might be contrary to the intent of the original motion. So the only way to deal with it is to defeat the motion on the floor and start from scratch. Or my personal preference is that we pass the motion mindful of the fact that the whereases set the table for the resolution at the end, that we are first and foremost reminding them of their contractual obligations currently, and that we are open to further discussions at a staff level. And I think implicit in that is some mechanism for, and I think their suggestion was the mayor and deputy mayor of each of the participating municipalities. I would suggest that a stronger delegation would be have the members, our nominees for this fire board. I think they should be at the table. I don't think we have too many people at the table if we had the full membership of every single council. But I think, Elaine and you're in the best position to know what's going on. I could go there and it would take me the entire meeting to figure out what everybody's talking about, because I haven't been part of that process.
So in essence, they're asking for a board meeting, a fire board meeting with the CAOs. So it would be
a fire board meeting.
Well, I know, but I mean, those participants that are already in the fire board, and including the CAOs of the municipalities that have not been at the table with us.
I'm going to ask
Yeah.
for a recorded vote, Your
But
Worship.
sorry, just to further, Councillor Davy, so they're asking for CAOs and deputy, I believe, in the report that was written,
Mayors and deputies.
mayors and deputies, they've asked for.
And the CAOs.
And the CAOs, correct.
And I'm happy to delegate my
Sorry,
seat to
sorry,
somebody.
they just state that Mayor Mills and Deputy Hall and the CAO and the Director of Financial Services from Shelburne would be in attendance, and they'd be happy to meet virtually as a group as well, with representatives of your municipality.
It's sort of nice that they ask for this after they've taken this step. I mean, I wanted to be temperate about that, but at some point it
Well,
bothers me.
I think getting staff in the room with two members of council is definitely should be clear. Should be where we're
Elaine
headed.
and then Ralph.
Thank you. I don't agree with virtual. I think it needs to be in person. That's a mistake to do it virtually, I believe. And also, I think I lost what I was going to say, which you're probably happy about.
I did ask for a recorded.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry.
So there was some discussion about each of the municipalities being represented at a meeting with them in which they would discuss what the problems were. But what you're referring to, Mike, is that we have, the meeting that was proposed was between Shelburne and Mono only. No. Well, that's what's proposed in this.
No, it's with the, to Councillor Capes on virtual, it was in-person is preferred in the memo. So that, and I wouldn't be attending virtually. I think it's, with the tight timelines, they're giving that option in case somebody's obviously not available. Sorry, I just drew a blank. Councillor Manktelow.
So the question was to discuss the issue, what the issues were. Was that going to be just between us and Shelburne, or we're going to involve all 5 municipalities?
It would be with representatives of all 5
I think so.
municipalities. Yes, that's with the intention. Because I've been copied on emails with respect to the setup dates, but I'm wanting to get a firm idea of council's position on this.
So to follow up on this, we're not at this stage interested in discussing the details of the proposal. We want to meet with them to discuss the issues, and then maybe we can start from fresh and say, well, what are the other options for this? They made a proposal to us, which I don't think we want to get into the details of discussing that, because we don't want a proposal right now. We want to know what the problem is, and then we could try and decide what we want to do. Is that fair?
Thank you, I remembered, Mr. Mayor, what I was gonna say, if I could.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I'd like to change the word problem. It's the reason. Like, it's not a problem, what's the reason? But also, I think we need to be reminded of why we are even in this position, and why Shelburne is in this position, is because the province, in all of their wisdom, decided that they should pack more people into already existing places that had no infrastructure to support it, okay? So that's the real reason we're in this pickle, and the province should step up and give them money for the fire department that they need because of the growth that they've shoved on them. Anyway, I'm just gonna make that
All they have to
statement.
do is amend the Development Charges Act to do that.
Which we're getting less than, or
Melinda?
each amendment is less and less.
I'm going to call the vote shortly.
Yes, so no, to clarify, just to clarify, because this all came out and they passed it at their council, and then we had our fire board meeting the next night, and so then there was a lot of clarification of the people who, and the people around the table who were not mayors and deputy mayors have not received any of these emails, even though I'm on the board. I wouldn't get anything unless you'd sent it to me. I was completely excluded from the conversation. And apparently the first correspondence, kind of everybody interpreted as me and you and you and me and me and me. It wasn't going to be the whole group. And he clarified to say, no, we want all the municipalities together, and we need to make, we want to make decisions, and so it has to have the mayor and the deputy mayor and the CAO, because they make the decisions.
But even if Fred and I are there, we can't make a decision on behalf of
I
this
think maybe the
council.
strong mayor in certain ways has gotten to some people's heads. But it was that they really, this is our proposal, and this is what's going to happen. We want to meet with you about it. So to speak to Councillor Manktellow's comments about how what we really want is to get the information and come up with solutions. As far as Shelburne is presented to the board, this is the solution. You're in or you're out.
So that's a very good point, Melinda, and so to add to that, the decision makers is the whole council, and the whole council should be in attendance.
But we, even if we're in attendance, we're not constituted as the town of Mono Council then and there to take a position. We've got to come back and discuss it amongst
And
ourselves.
if we're all in attendance.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, that's correct. Michael, and then I'm going to call the vote.
So with your indulgence, your worship, perhaps I could run through my thoughts with respect to the motion that was, or resolution that was presented to council.
Okay.
With what I believe to be conversation additions that council has just gone through. So paragraph 1, statement of fact. Paragraph 2 sets up, it's a statement of fact. It's included in the the existing 1991 agreement. Paragraph 3, statement of fact, 1991 agreement. Paragraph 4, Shelburne's offering a solution to their dissolution. So that's contained in their CAO's memo. So they're offering a solution. Paragraph 5, council is dedicated to the residents of Mono for providing adequate fire services. And then I would add a whereas, and I know you think the motion's getting long, but whereas, I would add this whereas clause. At council session 3-20-2025, council's stated position on changes to fire services for the town of Mono was to remain at status quo. That sets our historical position that council took in early 2025. And the next for therefore be it resolves in an outcome of all those statement of facts, basically letting them know that we're willing to entertain discussions regarding amendments to the agreement that may solve some of Shelburne's concerns, and then including potential dissolution. So we're committing in the second last paragraph that we're willing to sit down and reminding Shelburne of their requirements under the agreement. And then the last paragraph is that council directs town staff with council representation I've added in to have further discussions with the town of Shelburne together with the other partner municipalities in the fire board and to report back on those discussions. That resolution is clear enough for myself to proceed into, it gives me council's position of status quo. It sets up the town's position with respect to interpretation of the 1991 agreement, and I believe that it provides enough direction for either the board members or deputy and mayor, depending on how we land on that. But it provides enough direction for us to report back on the outcomes of those meetings. And it doesn't stipulate, as Councillor Manktelow had, doesn't stipulate that we're going to sit at the table and find out what the cost to provide a contracted service would look like. It stipulates that we're more interested in reviewing the current issues.
What the beef is.
What the beef is, I guess, and set up proper process should there be a cease to a willingness and a cease to wanting to cease from participating in the fire board. So long-winded, I know, but I think it gets staff in a position, and hopefully that I would deem to be minor. But I'll let council decide if they want to modify what would be there.
Mike, I can't find that. Is that in the agenda?
It comes in the resolution.
So the 5 paragraphs that I reported to as statement of fact are in your resolution.
So I have to go to the
The
email.
whereas.
Email that has the resolutions.
Your whereases are already there.
Okay, okay.
And then I added a historical that council on at session 3-2025 wanted to remain at status quo, and that was a response to the Dufferin County multi-jurisdictional report.
Yeah. And I think that addresses Fred's, I think Fred wanted to see that in there.
Well, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, I think the deputy mayor and I were the dissolution versus cease to, I don't think that the paragraphs 2 and 3, I get where deputy mayor is going on that, but they really are reiterations of the 1991 agreement. And we're sort of, I guess, questioning the fact that they've asked to dissolve the board with conditions, by the way, and there's not a mechanism inside the current 1991 agreement for them to do that.
Well, and I frankly think they're stuck with the 2-year.
There's just no possible way for. Has the asset management plan been peer reviewed? Has it been through any financial analysis by the participating members? The the statement of a one-time buyout, that needs time to be vetted by staff and potentially Watson and Associates. And like the town needs to, there's some strong statements in the Town of Shelburne motion and report that, that quite frankly, the timelines are just unobtainable, in my opinion. For proper, for staff to advise council properly, we would need more time. And I think that reminding them of the 2 years is really a way to say, we need more time to even start the conversation.
So we have a mover and a seconder. Are they in agreement with Mike's wordsmithing to the motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Elaine, I think you were the seconder on that? We can't hear you.
Yes, thank you. I am in agreement.
So we have a motion on the floor as amended with some things to make issues more specific, such as the position previously stated by council, which I think is important to be put in there under a whereas, and allowing for some flexibility in terms of who the delegates are to any future summit meeting on this. Does anyone have anything further to say before I call for a recorded vote? Ralph?
So I'm looking at the motion which was in the list of motions, and is that the motion that you're proposing, or has it been modified further?
You just modified it.
So the friendly amendment, not that I know whether the clerk can add a friendly amendment or not, but what I
You can suggest one.
what I took from the conversation, trying to achieve what Councillor or Deputy Mayor Nix is saying, is I added a paragraph 6. So the last word above that would be adequately provided. That's paragraph 5.
I don't see any paragraphs at all in this.
Well, there's no, there aren't, but you just have to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's going to add in before the therefore, he's going to add another whereas.
So there I'm asking to insert, and whereas at Council Session 3-2025, Council's stated position on changes to fire services for the town of Mono was to remain at status quo.
Yeah.
And
And then in the last paragraph, and that, council directs town staff, and I added with council representation, to have further discussions with the town of Shelburne, together with the other partner municipalities in the fire board, and to report back on those discussions to town council.
so my sense about that, the problem is that we're saying that we're willing to discuss the proposed agreement. That's the second last paragraph. That we are resolved to entertain discussion.
Well, no, the therefore be it resolved that notwithstanding our willingness to entertain discussions regarding amendments to the agreement. Council stating that we're open to discussions on the 1991 agreement.
Okay, so I just dropped the whole thing about including the potential dissolution of the Shelburne District Fire Board. We're interested in discussing that yet.
So
We're interested in discussing Shelburne's problems.
So Ralph, that would then read regarding amendments to the agreement, and then pick up council for the town of Mono reminds Shelburne of its contractual.
Yes, but we'd also add in something about, we want to get back to the beginning and find out what's bugging you guys. And so we want to add in something to the effect that we'd like to discuss.
Well, I think that's implicit in willingness to entertain discussions regarding amendments, because then that
Right.
draws them out as to what the beef is.
Well, you're absolutely right, but sometimes you need to repeat something twice before people get it. And that's what I'm doing.
Sometimes they say 7
and let them know that we're interested in their issues,
I'm trying to-
and dealing with
I
them.
tried to get through a
So
meeting and keep this simple and no more complex than it needs to be.
So providing, Councillor Manktelow, if I may, so by advising in the motion, the resolution, that your council is status quo, provide staff enough direction to understand that we're not entertaining at the moment what's on the table, and we need to find the problems with the existing board structure or governance model.
So are you going to put something into the motion there to that effect?
It's in there, that's what he said.
No, he's just ad-libbed it.
The second time.
So we're definitely going to remove the section that says, including the potential dissolution of the Shelburne District Fire Board. We're not interested in discussing that right now. We want to discuss the agreement and what we can do to fix things. Is that not a good idea?
Okay, that's a further amendment to the amended motion, and I need to have concurrence of the mover and seconder.
We haven't moved it yet, so we're not making an amendment, we're just making up the motion.
No, technically, the motion's on the floor,
Yeah.
and it's been amended, and you're further amending it, Ralph.
It's on the floor?
Yes,
Okay.
it's on the floor.
And I think it's a friendly amendment,
Yeah,
and I'm looking to the mover and seconder to concur.
yeah, I would take that out.
I don't know that it,
Including the potential dissolution.
yeah.
It's going to be hard
Including the
to attend that meeting and not talk about the
Well, it's
dissolution.
going to come up anyway, so I mean, I think
It's,
it's.
unless council's providing me with direction to
mean-
leave the meeting.
Well, right, I mean, Mike has a point. Mike has a point. The question that has been, the motion that's been put forward to us is that they want to dissolve it. And so I guess maybe by not giving the therefore direction to staff, it makes it more difficult. Well, including discussing it, but that doesn't mean I'm going to do it. We'll discuss it, but.
Well, I think the
You
discussion,
could say including all issues that arise from the conversation, like without naming that.
the discussion's going to go in that direction for sure, but we don't want to emphasize that that's why we're getting together, is to discuss the dissolution of the fire board.
No, exactly.
We're
do
getting
have
to,
a-
we're getting to,
Not
we're getting to,
concede anything going into the.
yeah,
okay.
exactly. We're getting together to try and find what the problem is and to come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Something that's less
Right,
less
you could
involved in this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You could say including potential solutions.
Yeah, that's good.
So we want to discuss regarding amendments to the agreement, including potential solutions.
I like that.
Including
I like that one.
potential solutions.
I like
Yeah.
that one.
I like that too. Mover, seconder seem to like it.
Yeah,
And that,
and then
that,
it leaves it open.
that
and
phrasing
not
is
defined
almost
by
exactly what I
that
had in
act.
my amended motion. Thank you very much. To meet with Shelburne to discuss problems, issues, and possible solutions.
Okay,
Yeah,
And it ends there. There's nothing else in the paragraph.
yes.
Right. Okay. Mike, are you on board with what we're talking about here?
I know Cheyenne and I both wrote down the same thing, so I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
But are we
Excellent.
still maintaining a bullet point, a point council for the town of Mono reminds the town of Shelburne of its contractual
Yes.
obligations?
yes.
So it doesn't just end there. We also have that there. I think
Yes.
that's really important because that will buttress our argument for 2 years if we need to make it.
It says we're playing hard.
Right.
Yeah.
Leave that stays.
Yeah. Sentence ends.
The sentence ends there, that we're going to get together to discuss things, including solutions, period.
Yeah.
Council for the town reminds the town of Shelburne, blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
Right, right.
So Mike and
Exactly.
Cheyenne, are we okay with that?
Cheyenne and I definitely have that. So would council be okay if I read the last three paragraphs? So the insertion was, and whereas at council session 3-25, council's stated position on changes to fire services for the town of Mono was to remain at status quo. Therefore, be it resolved that notwithstanding our willingness to entertain discussions regarding amendments to the agreement, including potential solutions. Council for the Town of Mono reminds the Town of Shelburne of its contractual obligations to provide the required adequate notice under the agreement together with complying with the other terms of the agreement. And that council directs town staff with council representation to have further discussions with the Town of Shelburne together with the other partner municipalities in the fire board and to report back on those discussions to town council.
So are we all generally happy with that? And I'm going to ask for a recorded vote.
Recorded vote. Councillor Capes, how do you vote?
I vote yes, and I will attend the meeting whether I'm invited or not.
Councillor Davy, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councillor Manktelow?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Nix?
How am I doing today? I vote no.
Mayor Creelman?
Yes.
Vote is carried.
241 votes against me, boy. This is a record.
Gosh, winning streak. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the appointment to the Shelburne Library Board, and I'd be remiss if I didn't start this off by thanking Sharon Martin for her many, many years of dedicated service on that board, and she's been a big cheerleader for that organization, and we do thank her for those efforts. And I have a motion, which we can fill in the blank, that council for the Town of Mono appoints to the Shelburne Public Library Board. How do we want to proceed with this? Do we want to canvass the public to see if there's somebody out there who would like to do this?
I suggest we do the appointment. It's less than a year and a half for the term, the completion of term.
Just need a name.
The conclusion was that we appoint a member of council.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was unusual that it was a member of the public to this board, but the reason why she stayed on was because she'd been a councillor for many, many years, sitting as that, in that position. But this is a council, generally speaking, a council position, not a public, so which one of you guys want to do it?
Yes, exactly.
You're correct, thank you.
Yeah, I sometimes have difficulty with that distinction between a council member being appointed versus a citizen being appointed, and I think this is one of those appointments that could easily go either way. You could get a big library user in the north end of Mono who's not a member of council who would do a bang-up job.
Well, what happens if you get a member of the public is that we don't, unless that member of the public comes to our council meetings, we don't get a report of what's happening. We didn't get anything from Sharon once she left the council.
And that was due to our error, because I don't know how many times I asked, can we invite our representative to come to a council meeting, and we never did, so shame on us.
Well, not shame on us also, but it should be a point of, you know, this is part of the job of being assigned to a as a representative. If you're going to go with public versus council, if we just have council, it's only a year and a half.
Yeah.
Then we're going to know what's going on at the library.
So I'm looking for a name, a volunteer.
I'll volunteer Melinda Davy. You live in the right end of town.
It happens to be the library that if I were to use a library, I would use it. I do have a card, so I could for the year and a half do it
So you're
under.
a member already. Okay, I appreciate that. So Melinda Davy fills the blank spot on the motion. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Manktelow seconds, Councillor Capes, Councillor Manktelow moves, Councillor Capes seconds. Any opposed? The motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda.
I have a motion that we accept Schedule A to this agenda. Need a mover, seconder, and then I'll call on members of council to comment. Deputy Mayor Nix moves, seconded by Councillor Manktelow. Anything's on the Schedule A that anyone wants to talk about? Fred?
Well, I wanted to talk about number 7 and number 8, but it's already passed, so it's too late, and I find the whole subject confusing. I guess I just, maybe Les could talk. I mean, the bottom line is, as I understand it, we're going to get less money from development charges.
They're working towards that, Deputy Mayor. They're looking at eligible expenditures that now qualify in a development charge background study. So they're reducing that. And one of the changes they did before was if you're doing a rental property, the payments are installments, you can charge interest. They're getting rid of that. And another thing that they're looking at, instead of development charges being paid at building permit time, it's on, I guess, when the house is occupied. So little things like that start eating away,
Could I just
our
ask
ability
a
to
further
raise
question,
funds.
though, on that, Les? Because I happen to know someone very well who lives in a house that they built, 20 or 30 years ago, and they've never bothered to get an occupancy permit. I don't know whether that's legal or not, so I'm not going to name any names, but presumably that house would not have to pay ever any development charges because they don't have an occupancy permit.
based on this, but that's actually, that can be rectified through your building department because they should track open permits and enforce closing the building permit.
And they are doing so with great effect. They
I
are
don't
chasing,
think
they're
doing it for
chasing
houses
down.
that were built 30 or 40 years ago.
Oh, yes. Yep, yeah, they are actually,
Anyway, that's my only item from Schedule A.
yeah. I had an outstanding permit for a solar array on a shed, and I didn't even know it was outstanding. And they contacted me and said, well, we're waiting for engineer drawings. And I said, oh, really? So I had to track down the builder who is no longer in business, and fortunately, they had drawings. But anyway.
I guess may I? A comment on that bill, and also further down the opposition to Bill 5. Just, on the record for anybody who's listening, that we were aware of these bills that come from the province. We read the materials. We know that there's an opportunity to make a comment as a town. We were getting our ducks in a row to do so, even with a short timeline, and they just passed the bills anyway. So it's good to have our staff being aware of stuff to let us know how the apples have fallen, but they all have fallen already.
And we now have an advocacy page on our website that we can put up some of the motions and some of the reports that have been created about legislation. And I just note for the record that these bills did not pass the House in the normal fashion.
Yes.
They invoked cloture and rammed them through.
And they had no committee meetings for 17, did they?
I don't believe so.
And just in response to Councillor Davies' comment, I think that it is worth doing what we do, because occasionally it has an effect. For instance, the Greenbelt grab, they got so much pushback on that, they had to stand up and say, we're wrong. And so I have some confidence that the residents on the ground are able to influence the government.
Any other items on Schedule A? Ralph?
I have one item, and it's the item 24, plant-based treaty. This is something I'd never heard of before, and it interested me. I went into the endorsement thing and looked up a little bit about the plant-based treaty and what they're interested in. I think it's interesting. I'm not a vegetarian, although I have switched a little bit from red meat. But I think that there's something to offer, and I'll send it to my only son, who is a vegetarian.
Melinda, anything?
No, thank you. I don't have anything.
Elaine, anything's on A? Okay. Fred, anything else? I just have one item, and that's number 10, which is the OPP cost recovery model. And everyone will recall that last year we had a 20% plus increase in our OPP expenses due to a contractual arrangement that was arrived at. The province threw $70 million towards assisting municipalities with that, and then they announced a review of the whole formula for costing, for determining what we would owe for OPP policing. There is a webinar that is scheduled that I think it's next week that I'm signed up for. But locally, the other issue, and I've talked to staff about this, is that with Larry Matkowski's retirement, the question arises, what happens with the supplement that we pay to the OPP for 1.25 people? Yeah. And the only answer I've been able to get is that we might have to go to what's called paid duty. And the problem with paid duty is it's time and a half, which of course totally waters down the FTE that we're currently paying, and would water down the amount of enforcement that we're currently getting. So I'm going to pursue that issue in the course of that webinar if they allow me. And if they don't allow me, we're going to do a letter because we need clarity on this. And I've reached out to the mayor of Caledon, where they have many FTEs that are doing supplemental work for traffic. And I think it has consequences across the province if all of a sudden they're not allowing the supplemental model to proceed.
So I see what you're saying. It's not just because that particular stellar officer is retiring, it's because of the changing of it all, of the structure of the payments.
It could be a combination of both, in as much as for the supplemental to continue in Dufferin, they need a body, they need an individual, which I don't believe they've got somebody to step into Larry's shoes. So what they're saying is, notwithstanding that, we can give you a paid duty officer on and off as available, only as available.
Okay, well, so how did it come about that Officer Makowski was doing this? Isn't there, can't you go to the people that we have in the detachment?
I think we have a contract which speaks to the issue of a supplemental.
Everyone's looking at it.
Just looking.
We just discussing with Mike. There is a contract, we have to look into it, and then I guess contact the people that sent us the contract to sign.
So the contract would speak to the issue of a supplementary
Yes.
scenario as opposed to X number of paid duty hours per whatever. So we don't want them to shift us to the paid duty model because it is more expensive by quite a factor. Elaine?
Can we not just request that we would like to continue with that supplementary contract, and so that they can hire a replacement for Larry?
I've already had that discussion, and I don't think that it went sufficiently well that I can be assured that they are in fact going to do it. They were pushing back hard on the virtues of the paid duty model. Without mentioning the time and a half aspect.
Then why are they not obligated to fill the contract we
Well,
already have?
I rather suspect if, depending on the wording of the contract, they are, but be mindful that the contract expires at some point. And we don't want to be in the lurch on that. We've had a supplemental arrangement since the early part of this century.
Yes,
A long time.
yeah.
That's the only matter from Schedule A. So, did we hold a vote on Schedule A? I think we did. Oh,
Sorry, did they?
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Any opposed to the acceptance of Schedule A? Going once, going twice. Motion is carried. Reports of staff. Les, anything?
I have one item. If you recall, Mr. Mayor, you sent an email to myself and to Matt, Director of Public Works, that Hydro was given funds out to do, I guess, to help pay for damage after the last storm. So I went on the link that you provided, did a quick little answer their questions with the assistance from Matt, and we got a check for $10,000. So now we have additional funding for Matt and his crew to do the brushing that's required.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Good news. Thank you. Matt?
Thank you. I have several items here. Gravel resurfacing is starting on Thursday. So anticipate some delays, traveling delays on the gravel roads. The borehole investigation on the Mono-Agilent town line, the work is complete. The report's currently underway and the lab results are being analyzed. We're expecting a report sometime in June with some recommendations. Fleet-wise, we finally received the 2 plow trucks that were awarded 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. So we're going to wrap up calcium, and we'll put those into the fleet once the calcium's been completely wrapped up, and some other safety measures, lights and stickers and logos are all on those. Capital road-wise, phase 1 of the 5 side road reconstruction is complete. The base course is being phase 1. And gravel shouldering. Public Works will be bringing the top course works to council at the fall budget. Replacement of top course. Stormwater pond surveys, which council is aware of. We awarded that work last month. The work is currently underway. Should be wrapped up by the end of the week. So we should have, they'll move into the report phasing of that to provide recommendations to Public Works, so we could bring those to council as well in the fall. Water, Island Lake well went down recently. We were hoping to hold it off until the fall with a rehab, but the pump and motor failed about a week and a half ago. So we're working with the town engineer, the well contractor, to source a new pump and motor, and we'll be pulling that well, pump and motor, and doing an airlift test and doing some well maintenance on the well before putting in the new, and do some flow testing and whatnot before, and videoing and et cetera, before we put the new pump and motor in. So I'm hoping that will be commencing around the week of the 23rd by the looks of it. Cardinal Woods Pump House, council will recall the ministry had pushed some pretty heavy recommendations on their last inspection. So we've moved forward, given the town engineer the go-ahead to work on the design for the flow meters, for the bypass and the distribution flow meters at the Cardinal Woods Pump House, along with some valving and a redundant chlorine analyzer. So that's currently underway for design. And I'm hoping to take that, put that to tender in the fall of this year. Remote operated vehicle inspections were done at the Coles Water Tower and the at-grade reservoirs, Cardinal Woods, and by Landmark. And we've received those reports and we'll be reviewing the recommendations, but they should align with what we had brought forth with the financial plan for the water that the council just approved. And then with respect to water and grants, there is a grant that's open right now for the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program, Healthy and Safety Water Stream. I'm currently working with Sylvia Medeiros, the town engineer, and Les to hopefully have that submitted by the due date, which is June 26. So a water grant, so for the Health and Safety Water Stream grant, we're hoping to have that completed, and that will go towards arsenic as well. That's the hope to get additional, if awarded. We're working on that. And then last is the forest management. The tender's ready to go. We're just waiting from the town's forester to mark the trees for our next 3 forest tracks to harvest, hopefully this fall, early winter. And once we have those quantities and the trees marked, we'll be releasing that tender for bid again, similar to last year. It was pretty successful, so hopefully get some revenue from that again. And that's it.
Fred? And then Ralph?
Yes, I think you've had some meetings with Scott Burns from the county, and I'm just curious as to, in general, I know we haven't got the specifics, County Road 8, which is scheduled to become a municipal road at some point, do we know now whether there's any major work that is required to be done on it? And if so, of course, we'd be asking the county for some money. And my second part of this question is, have you started to consider or look at what is going to be the operational cost to the town of Mono to start looking after that road? I'm guessing, but I think we are going to need that number for budget purposes for 2026. So two parts to my question.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor Nix. Mr. Burns has reached out to me. We've yet to meet. I have a long list of items I want to talk to Mr. Burns about, operational maintenance and capital, concerns. I'm confident that Public Works could take the road over, and, having it on the road, our operations yard right on the road, I think it could be accommodated. There's some stretches of the road that do need upgraded, and we want those built properly. There's stormwater system in Mono Center that needs to be looked at. There's signage, there's guide rail, there's maintenance of existing, there's bylaws that parking, speed, regulatory speed bylaws, all those things need to be looked at and addressed, and I'm hoping to meet with Scott as early as next week. We had planned to meet last Friday, but our schedules ended up not aligning. So I'm hoping to meet with Scott as early as next week and talk about some of these things and what needs to happen to make it happen. As I mentioned to council in the fall, I did include the county bridge down just to the west of the office here, and the structure, the steel pipe structure right at Third Line in our biennial bridge inspection, just to get our own baseline for the conditions of those structures. In addition, we also did the PCI, the Pavement Condition Index review, as part of the road management plan last spring as well. So we have our own baseline of those conditions, and we're gonna bring those things to the table with them.
So is it premature to start guessing at what it's going to do to our 2026 budget?
Yeah, so I've been working with our operations manager, Matt Noble and Les. We've taken the items out of our contract and we're starting to pull what it costs currently to maintain a kilometer of road on each of those items. So we could get a good idea what these things are gonna cost to maintain based on our existing asphalts and similar traffic data for similar roads. So we have a pretty good idea what it's gonna cost, but I hope to have a little bit more to report to council in the coming month with respect to potential operational changes. We're trying to look through all those operational, as we're operating right now for the town roads, and what that looks like deploying staff to Mono Center Road as early as maybe 2026.
Thank you.
There are segments of Mono Center Road that have not been reconstructed since, 25 years.
Yes.
Yeah. There was a segment down in the area of Relesi about 25 years ago, but then they stopped roughly at the Third Line. They didn't go any further than that.
Thanks for the report, Matt. Could you tell us a bit more about what they did on the Fifth Side Road rehabilitation? I know you were, when we talked about this earlier, one of your points was, which I've repeated to a number of residents, is if we resurface it early enough, we can beat any damage to the subbase, or the base. And was that true? And when I went by on I think it was Monday afternoon, it looked like the asphalt had been ground up and left in place. Is that a part of the program?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Manktelow. So yeah, we did a pulverize in place. So it's basically taking the approximately 100 millimeters or 4 inches of existing asphalt, grinding that up with the underlying granulars to improve the base. I would say that, you know, doing that road in a timely manner, avoiding all those all that salt-laden water to enter in underneath and degrade the underlying base materials is obviously good practice and has allowed the town to stay at the 74 PCI average that we've been able to maintain. I'm a strong believer in taking care of it that way. I think we've got that road. It aligned with the 2025 proposed works in the road management plan. We didn't do Mono Amaranth Town Line or the third line from Highway 9 up to Rose Ridge, but those will be coming again in the fall, in addition to the 2026 recommendations. So yeah, I think we did get this stretch road. The pulverizing was really good. I found that we always strive to have a consistency of granular A, which is the typical base material before you place the binder course or the base asphalt. And Michael Nicholas, the Public Works Manager, did a great job organizing this and getting it tendered and everything awarded in pre-construction meeting with Cox Construction and getting it wrapped up pretty early in the summer. Like we're finished with that road right now until, like I said, we will revisit it in the spring. We'll monitor it over the winter months and into the spring. And the hope is there's no deficiencies come spring and we could have the top put on it and we'll get a good lifespan out of it.
One big deficiency, no bike lanes. That hill's a hard climb.
down the middle of the road.
There's good adequate shoulder.
Yeah, on gravel.
Okay,
My
thank you.
bike tires are this wide.
Cheyenne, how are we doing in bylaw enforcement these days?
Doing great. We're caught up. We're on top of everything. We've minimized the list and we're working as a good team.
Any results from the courts lately?
Nothing, no. It's been put off.
Okay, again?
Yes. Yeah.
Again and again. Thank you. Mike?
Your worship, Deputy Mayor Nix, you still got that 10-speed, do you?
Yeah, I haven't ridden it too much.
Time for a mountain bike, I think.
Three-wheeler.
Three-wheeler. Just a friendly reminder to council on June 12th. Today's the 10th. So Thursday night is the joint meeting of council, of all council, to review the meeting with the county, planning and development they'll be
Can I
going
ask,
through.
Why doesn't that constitute a municipal council meeting if we're all there?
So it'll probably be labeled as training.
Yeah, training, education, training.
No, you do not. You've all been invited though, so but I'll be attending and I'll be attending with respect, and I've already spoken to I've already went through the roundtable interviews that they've had with the CAOs of the municipality, and I sat through the planners one too. I think it's really just going to be a further explanation as to what the county's planning department does. There was a lot of discussion on the fee structure and everything, so we're the potential of double charging residents for OPAs, and that's the county's committed to looking into that. But generally it'll give an idea of what the county's role is from provincial communications with respect to planning and economic development, which is a whole different part that Town of Mono's not involved with. If you wanted to let me know whether you'd be attending or not, I can put in the RSVP for you and also get you a name tag. Not right. So if I could get some attendance, maybe by email. There is a dinner at 5 and the meeting starts at 6. June 25th, at Menorah Pavilion, 6:30 is I've been working when time permits with the diversity, the EDI, the Equity, Diversity, Inclusivity Committee at the county. They've, with the dissolving of other committees, the county's been doing a lead role, and Orangeville's participating with them, and all the lower tiers. But on June 25th at 6:30, there's a community conversation, Don't Rain on My Parade, combating 2SLGBTQIA+ hate, celebrating community and taking action towards a more inclusive world. There will be a speaker, and I've lost the name right now. There will be a keynote speaker who will lead off the meeting, and expecting to have community conversations. So that's an all, that's to be invited, or everybody's invited to that, inclusive of the public. And I'll get Andrew to make sure it gets out there. That's on June 25th. John brought up the participating in the OPP cost recovery. I've been trying to get attendance to that, but I might let John give us notes on that if I can work it into my schedule. I was going to do the central or the west region because we're sort of straddle the boundary. Those are June 12th and June 18th. Last week, staff were heavily involved in the upcoming BTC OLT file. Commencing next week, myself, town engineer and consultant planner, will be heavily involved in the preparation of the Line 2 Developments OLT file. We would be doing our issues lists and affidavits, of course, similar to the Aragon file. So that'll take care of the majority of my week. Matt and I were working with the federal government, investing in Canada infrastructure, the Green Stream. As council will recall, we received a $4.9 million grant from the feds in the province. That 33% of that was payable by the town of Mono. Because of the changes, the prospective changes to the allowable concentrations of arsenic in potable water, it started to throw a curve to our EA that we were trying to do for the solutions. So we lobbied to the provincial government through to the federal government to ask for an extension, and on that project, unfortunately, that was denied. And I've sent back a pretty detailed email as to why it shouldn't be denied, and asking for a federal member to meet at the table with Matt and I to talk about an extension to that for a very complex problem that's involving the Island Lake drinking water system.
Is that both a provincial and federal deal? Can we get the MPP involved?
It's both a provincial and a federal deal, but administered by the province. And I've, all through my tenure here with water grants, I've never been able to get a federal member into a room to discuss. So
I think the federal member is going to tell you, talk to the provincial member.
well, because they administer it, right?
Yeah, they administer.
But the decision making is at the federal level.
Okay.
So yeah. So this occurred just very recent Friday, and my email went back to the provincial administrator yesterday to identify my my concern with respect to this and the reasons why it's so hard for us to go ahead with our EA when we don't know the future. You know, the whole Walkerton study, the whole WCWC, the whole Walkerton, I've lost what it means. The whole Walkerton study that I presented to council 3 years ago was based on trying to achieve the current allowable levels in arsenic. And now with the hypothetical changes, it just changes the whole scope on the EA, and we're hoping that we can get the federal government to the table.
So, Mike, if we don't get an extension on that and we can't get started on the program, we might lose the grant.
Well, yeah, we'll be able to spend, we'll, as identified in the water financial plan, the 4.9 million has been identified as not being remotely enough to achieve the project outcomes. The maximum maybe you asked why I didn't ask for more at the grant, but the maximum allowable grant application was 5 million. So I went for the maximum, got the maximum, and Matt spoke to a grant. Just now you spoke to a grant. I thought I heard you talk about it. Just now he spoke to a grant that we can, we're allowed to piggyback together. So we're applying to that to hopefully add on to this grant to achieve a solution to a very, very complex problem.
How much is the potential grant that Matt was talking about?
Matt, what was the?
Potential limit?
I'll have to get back to you on the exact number.
So Matt will get back to you on that, Councillor
Okay.
Manktelow. Yeah, sorry, he doesn't have his mic on, so you do.
I have very good.
You can hear him, I know you can, because you got the extra help, or the extra earphones on there. I know. Back in the day, that was called the Whisper 2000, I think, KTEL sold that. So anyway, so that denial come in, so that wasn't very good, and one thing I didn't, and maybe the board members, Capes and Davey, could mention to Chief Blacklaws was, I didn't want to get into it then, but Public Works is seeing a 2-year window on the ordering of trucks, and I don't know when. Mike mentioned that they get them in a year. I don't know when the next truck purchase for the Rosemont board is, but I don't think the 1-year delivery date will probably be intact anymore. To Deputy Mayor Nix, I sat with Matt and looked at the list of concerns and questions for the county with respect to the download. It's very detailed, and I think you'll get a good overview from Matt as this moves forward. And that's it.
Good. Melinda, anything?
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, the fire boards are having lots of discussions going on. And also at our at CDRC, there was a terrific. I think we're trying really hard to get the message out about the events and the activities that are available at CDRC. There was some roller skating last week, and there's another date for roller skating coming up. And the camps are starting, and we're working on getting a new maintenance manager at the CDRC. And that's it from me.
Okay. Ralph, anything?
You'll all have a copy of the 2024 report from the Wellington Deferred Board of Health. The boards of health, except for when you have COVID, they sort of function under the radar. So it's useful to look at this and see all the good things that are happening, and compare it with all the bad things that are happening with the CDC in the United States. Unbelievable. Comment on the pollinator garden. We have a replacement of the entire trail system, which is about 320 meters. Does that sound right, Matt? I think so. And it's been replaced by Sunshine at a tune of about $5,000. It was paid for by an anonymous donor. Looks very nice. We've had our first child education program. Girl Guides came about a week ago and had a program with our new education coordinator. And I'm very bullish about this as education, and particularly at the children's level, is very influential to affect us through the rest of our life. We've finished the Boomerang Mound again through a private donation. It has a carving by Jim Mencken, and it has been planted with a selection of perennials just in the last week, and it's looking very good. And we'll have an opening or an unveiling of the statue on July I think it's the 6th or 7th, the Sunday, and all of you are invited to come. We'll have have lunch afterwards, and you can come to that. I'll send out a little invitation and ask for an RSVP.
Thank you. Fred?
Yeah, a few things. Let me put my glasses on. I had two conversations this past week, one a visit and one a telephone call from two residents of Mona who've resigned from the Recreation Advisory Committee. And I think they sent a letter in. I haven't seen their letter, but I was disappointed to hear some of the things they said. I'll just leave it at that. And I will say that these two people have put in stellar performances in the Recreation Advisory Committee over the last number of years. At Credit Valley, as you may or may not know, we have a new CAO, Terry LaRue. She just took the reins a week ago Friday. The other thing about Credit Valley, and I can't pronounce this name quite correctly, I did send Mike an email, but I had a really good talk with Benham Dulattieri. He looks after watershed plans and source protection, and he's said some very interesting things about some of the things we're doing here in Mono, and I wasn't sure I got the drift of them all, and I advised Mike about that, but he did seem to be concerned or interested in the possibility of a new well over at our Cardinal Woods wells, in the Klondike pit. Anyway, I've passed the information on that I know to the clerk, and I think what we're going to do is invite him and the RJ Burnside person to maybe give a presentation in the fall. Council should be aware of some of these issues, okay? Remember, under the Source Water Protection Plan, we had one of the few wells in Ontario, not wells, areas that had a water quantity threat, and I think that's the issue. The other thing I'll pass on, I was at an event for the staff appreciation Credit Valley thing. I had several people come up to me, and they were very curious about what Mono experience has been at the Ontario Land Tribunal with respect to the Argonne development. And I wasn't sure I was on board with what they were asking, but here, as I understand it, it was the issue. All over Ontario, there's been these development proposals for sort of standalone subdivisions out in the country with standalone communal sewage treatment plants. They were really curious about how we managed to win, is that the right word? At the Ontario Land Tribunal and in the courts. They wanted to know our experience. Whether any of our experience is transferable to anybody else, who knows? But they were quite curious about it. In terms of the only other thing I was involved with is the Headwater Streams Committee. Karen Morrison, who's the chair, she's been awarded, she'll be going to a dinner, sometime in June. She's been awarded, got an award from Credit Valley for the work that we did on Mill Creek. And we've done a little video. If you want to see a pending movie actor, I'm one of the stars of that video, as is Karen. What's the laughter for?
I'm sorry.
You're
an obvious.
In your waiters and...
Yeah. The other thing I should tell you about the Headwater Streams Committee, they've started the second, it's every 3 years, so the second biomass study on the Nottawasaga River, just above Canyons Falls. They've got Peter Sinclair's permission to use his land. This is important. Credit Valley's been doing this for years. Don't ask me technically how you do it. You catch the little trouties, you measure them, you calculate the biomass in that watershed, and then you track it over time. In the Credit Valley watershed, the trend is down, which is bad. We don't know what it is yet in Nottawasaga because they only did one time 2 years ago, or this will be the third year. So they'll collect the little trout, they'll measure their body masses, and then they do whatever they do. But over time, it gives us a tool to measure the impact of what development and maybe agriculture, I don't know, is doing to our watersheds. I think that's all I have to report.
Okay. Elaine?
I have nothing to report.
Excuse me, Your Worship. Yes. If I may. Deputy Mayor, next, just to clarify, was Terry LaRue acting CAO or?
No, she's the acting CAO. We're anticipating she might apply for the full-time job. I don't know that for a fact.
I just want to make sure, because I know
she's
the
the
banner
acting
pulls from
CAO.
her. I know that, so she's acting capacity right now? Because I know the banner pulls from our YouTube feed, right?
What?
The banner pulls from our YouTube feed, and you identified her as the new CAO.
Oh, I see.
So I
No,
just
she's
want.
the acting
She's the
CEO.
acting CAO, for clarification. Back to your discussion with CVC member and Dwight, that'd be Dwight Smyko from RJ Burnside. As I noted, and council will recall, Orangeville is rerunning the water, Tier 3 water model, and hoping that those, I'll be asking for that report to be presented at Mono Council with our percentage that we'll be paying for a portion of that.
I think it'll be ready by November, so the rest of council knows. Amaranth, Mono, Orangeville, and East Gary entered into an agreement, 3 years ago? Mike and I sat in on it, and it basically says if there's X amount of development, more development, or if the water usage goes up by X amount, we trigger what I call a Tier 3 study. It's a very, very conservative study which looks at our aquifer, our Guelph-Hannibal aquifer, how much water we're drawing from it, how much water is going back into it. And that study, when it was done 10 years ago, was the basis on which we said we had a water quantity threat. So now, because of development in Orangeville, the study has been triggered again. I forget who's doing the study. He told me the name of the consultant, but I can't remember. It doesn't matter. I think, and he was guessing ballpark, the cost is going to be in the range of $300,000. That's a wild guess. And our share, Mike, is
That,
10%?
I know that went to council, and we approved the report from Tim Kochelek. Council approved the participation in that, so I do know that went to council.
Yeah. So the full results with the cost should be, I think, ready by about November.
It's too bad the developers don't pay for that. They seem to be the ones stressing the aquifer.
Good point.
I've mentioned a couple of things, so I have nothing further to report. Notices of motion, I do have one which I gave notice at the last meeting. Matt, did you have something?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Croman. Just before you moved on there, I wanted to address Councillor Manktelow's request for grant numbers. I wanted to give you the correct one. So the grant is up to 30 million.
30 million.
30 million.
We'll take
Up
it.
to. We've requested 25 as part of this application with the information we know now. The province would kick in 18 of that, 73%, with the municipality having to kick in 7 million, 20%, 27%.
That's a big gulp.
Yeah.
Is that how much our EA is going to cost on the arsenic issue? That much money?
Not the EA, the result of the recommendation.
The abatement.
We don't,
Oh my
this is the information we have now. We're trying to find the most appropriate solution, and that's what the EA is right now, and we're working with the Klondike well, we're testing it, we're working through it. But that's the information we have now, and that's where we've been working with the town engineer, and that's where we're at.
So when we factored in the arsenic and the tower into capital costs for the estimate, or Watson did, was that the number they were using, 7,000?
Yeah, so of that 7 million,
7 million.
7 million would be town portion, which is like, I think it was 7.2 or 7.3 in the Watson. 35 will be reserve and 65 from debt.
Sorry, say that again, please.
35 reserve and 65% debt.
Wow.
Percent.
So meaning the whole study, the whole abatement study, our estimate, or the whole abatement process, what's the estimate for that?
25 million right now is what we're anticipating that the cost would be by pump house expansions and reservoir storage, waste, pumping, potential wells. Like, this is just the information we have now, this 25
This
million.
is for the whole water thing?
Arsenic.
Just arsenic
Just arsenic,
alone?
yes.
That's why we have to borrow money.
Again, this is right now, this is the information we have.
Wouldn't it be
As we-
cheaper
as
to
we-
buy bottled water?
Fiji
Microplastics?
You can't put it through your garden hose.
Fiji water. Unbelievable.
Okay.
can I, just as an observation, I mean, we can't be the only place that has this problem. If they keep lowering the number because they're getting some studies to show that arsenic's bad, we know that, but just the water that we have in the world, we're not unique. So there's going to be a whole bunch of municipalities needing to borrow a whole bunch of money, and it's bigger than us, right?
Yeah, Councillor Davey, it's certainly bigger than us. There's municipalities around us that are in a worse shape than us. The potential of dropping it from 10 micrograms per liter down to 5 is it's going to be challenging, because you're essentially looking for 0. Because we're running around the half MAC right now, floating between the 5 and the 7. Our SOP that has been in place and approved by the ministry to flush and treat it seems to be working. But if they drop it to 5, we're really going to be challenged. So I know in the States, I know places like Newfoundland where there's lots of higher concentrations of naturally occurring arsenic in the rock. They're challenged with it as well. It's well known. You look at the Toronto Star, you read articles, it's everywhere.
Elaine?
I just, thank you. I just wonder, can we challenge the data? Like, what's the data that says this is an acceptable level? I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but like, what is the evidence that says this needs to be lowered? That's what I want to understand. Have we challenged it?
Yeah, you'll go down a wormhole that you probably wish you never went down. But Health Canada has a whole website page should you be interested in reading. And I vaguely recall links being provided in the Walkerton study that they did for us. But I do know that the information that on arsenic and its effects on the human body are well documented.
Yeah. At high levels for sure. And do we have information about water coming out of Lake Ontario and Georgian Bay? And because there are areas who take their water directly from those bigger sources and not in-ground water, and so I don't know.
They'll be bound by the same. They'll be bound by the same testing, the same raw water testing. I would think that the Toronto Water Commission would have similar reports as to the naturally occurring minerals in lake water. But considering I don't even have a number of percentage of the province that utilize lake water as their main source. I've always said there needs to be a regional solution for the aquifer-based drinking water stations, and there are also road salts as well. And there needs to be a regional solution for wastewater as well. So I would harbor a guess that the lake water, once chlorinated and potentially filtered, is coming back less impactful than groundwater.
Right, because that he wouldn't have the arsenic content that we find in the stuff that's in the rocks.
And I don't know how it deals with pesticides, or I don't claim to know anything, and Matt probably doesn't either, about lake water, Lake Erie.
There are a lot of communities though that take their water from Georgian Bay. I mean, we're piping it all over the place. So I just want, I agree with you, Mike. Maybe this is this is the tipping point, $25 million, and that's just a guess. Good guess, good estimate, but still, it's $25 million. And do we need different water solutions? And yes, we have all these subdivisions on wells, or on a system, but do we need to look at how we refill that system? Maybe it's easier to helicopter water in by tankers and fill the tank at the top instead of from the bottom. I'm just being crazy, but
You're not being, yeah. You're not being crazy at all, and this is exactly what the EA will do. is it looks at all these potential solutions within geographically, fiscally responsible. And that's exactly what the EA will do. Council will be highly involved in the EA process in the public information sessions and asked to attend the events and provide individual and/or council comments with respect to the EA, and that's those are all the solutions that the engineers will review, and they're not lost on Matt and I, that's for sure.
Okay, and maybe each property needs their own well.
Okay, under new business, I did give notices of motion. I did give notice that to assuage the concerns of a couple of Mono residents, I would move a motion to the effect of rescinding a previous motion having to do with the town of Mono and the Caledon Hills Bruce Trail.
I have to declare it in direct conflict of interest.
Okay, so my motion is, be it resolved that a motion dated October 22nd, 2024 pertaining to the use of Town of Mono property located at the west part of Lot 8, Concession 2, EHS, Hockley Road, by the Caledon Hills Bruce Trail Club to extend its trail network be rescinded.
What do you need, a mover?
Mover?
I'll move that.
Okay, seconder? Elaine
Sure,
Capes?
second, but friendly amendment, be rescinded and further explain that their interest was withdrawn.
No, I disagree with that. I think
Okay.
it's fairly clear that it's rescinded
Okay.
for whatever reason, and there were actually a couple of reasons. It wasn't simply the.
Okay.
I
No
think
worries,
I think it's
no worries.
correct.
I'll accept it the
I
way
think
it
we're
is.
okay. I think we're okay.
Thank you.
Any objectors to that motion? Motion is carried. Thank you.
Is it too late for me to give a notice of motion?
Nope.
Oh, thank you. I'm giving notice of motion that I will be bringing a motion to council, building off of a Caledon motion to restrict the number of transport trucks per property to the number of licensed drivers who live in that property. That's coming.
Okay. Very good. But it's a start. Okay, we have no in-camera matters, Mike?
Your worship, there's no in camera.
So that being the case, I have a motion that we introduce and give the necessary readings to a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of Town of Mono, session number 11-2025, held on June 10th, 2025, that it be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and engrossed in the bylaw book. Do I have a mover? Councillor Capes moves, seconded by Deputy Mayor Nix. Any in opposition? Seeing none, motion carries. And then finally, I have a motion that we adjourn this meeting at 12:52 p.m. Moved by Deputy Mayor Nix, seconded by Councillor Capes. No objection. Motion is carried and carried. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Great meeting. Thank you, staff.